Chapter 2584 Final Decision. Road to Tier 4. Surpassing could not help but hesitate when he saw the system notification. Both the Legacy Guidance and the Disaster Blade Strengthening were incredibly rare opportunities. Not only would the Legacy Guidance help players unlock their mana body's full potential, but it would also help them reach beyond the 100% threshold. The knowledge a titled Sword Saint like Elvos had was especially valuable. With the Tier 6 gods in seclusion, a titled Sword Saint stood at the very apex of God's domain's powerhouses. Of course, the chance to strengthen the awarded weapon was just as precious. This opportunity involved imbuing one's mana in a weapon, granting the weapon a portion of their abilities. This wouldn't change any of the weapon's attributes, but the weapon's power and skill effects would receive a considerable boost. This could even grant the weapon hidden effects. If a titled Sword Saint imbued an epic weapon like the Disaster Blade with his mana, the weapon would be able to rival fragmented legendary weapons. Even the various superpowers experts would consider such a weapon godly. They'd essentially be able to use it for their entire careers in God's domain. The weapon's level limitation wouldn't be a concern either. It was possible to raise a level 100+ epic weapon or equipment piece's maximum level through certain means, although it would be more costly with a level 100+ epic weapon. However, if one could continue to use an epic weapon that rivaled fragmented legendary rank, the cost would be worthwhile. While Surpassing hesitated, he heard the sound of another system notification. System. You have 1 minute remaining. If you fail to make a decision before the time limit has ended, both options will be considered abandoned. With so little time remaining, Surpassing gritted his teeth and approached Elvos. Esteemed Sword Saint, I hope to obtain your legacy guidance, Surpassing earnestly declared. Are you certain? You have already unlocked your mana body, and based on how you accomplished that feat, you must have received legacy guidance from another powerhouse. I doubt my guidance will be of any significant help to you. In contrast, strengthening the Disaster Blade will certainly increase your strength, Elvos calmly informed Surpassing. I am certain, my lord, Surpassing replied, nodding. While he had unlocked his mana body's full potential, 100% wasn't enough for his future goals. He'd only reach greater heights by surpassing that threshold. Every powerhouse trod a different path, and obtaining more legacy guidance would definitely help him break past the 100% threshold. Most importantly, opportunities to receive legacy guidance were incredibly rare. If he missed this chance, he might never find another. Even after learning from the Heavenly Blue Saint's legacy guidance, he had only unlocked his mana body's full potential after combining what he had learned with the God's Heart's effects. Naturally, crossing the 100% threshold was far more difficult than reaching it. If he had to do so on his own, it would take ages before he made a breakthrough. He might never actually succeed. He had an epic rank mana body, and going beyond 100% at that rank would be much harder than it would be with lower ranks. If he did not have enough help, his chances of making a breakthrough were minuscule at best, even with the help of a God's Heart. Thus he had no choice. Strengthening the Disaster Blade would give him immediate access to a pseudo-fragmented legendary weapon and boost his combat power. But the Disaster Blade was a fragment of Solomon's sword. Once he found 5 sword fragments, he would have to combine them to reproduce Solomon's sword, which would render the strengthening useless. Moreover, Surpassing now had the fragmented legendary ranked Abyssal Blade. He no longer lagged behind others when it came to weapon standards. More importantly, Tier 3 wasn't the end for true experts, only a transition. Reaching Tier 4 was a far better option than obtaining another fragmented legendary item. As players reached higher levels, the strength differences between tiers would only grow. Sooner or later, the gap would grow so large that not even 1 or 2 fragmented legendary items would make a difference. Surpassing had also reached level 117. Only 3 levels away from the level 120 threshold. Level 120. Naturally, the Tier 4 promotion quest would be much harder than the Tier 3 quest. The two weren't even on the same level. The Tier 3 promotion quest would be like a normal mode party dungeon, while the Tier 4 quest would be as challenging as a 100-man, Hell mode team dungeon. There was a qualitative difference between the two. Most mainstream experts were capable of reaching Tier 3. Even if they couldn't do it at level 100, they could complete the quest after reaching level 120 or level 130. Tier 4, however, was a different story. If one truly couldn't complete their Tier 4 promotion quest, They'd never do so, even after reaching level 200. Because of this, Tier 4 experts had been incredibly rare in the past, even among the various superpowers. Anyone that successfully reached Tier 4 instantly became a guild upper echelon. Moreover, completing the Tier 4 promotion quest took a very long time. According to the statistics players had collected in the past, completing a Tier 4 promotion quest could take anywhere between 1 and 2 months. However, Surfeng also had to face the Silver Divine Dragon, Audiobook's trial, so he was in a rush. If he couldn't reach Tier 4 before he had to undertake the Divine Dragon's trial, his chances of clearing the trial would be all but zero. Unfortunately, he couldn't afford to lose Audiobook due to the many benefits the Divine Dragon's companion enjoyed. It had also helped him secure a foothold on the Western continent. In his current state, Surfeng estimated that his chances of completing the Tier 4 promotion quest were only around 10% or 20%. He had no choice but to grab a hold of whatever opportunities that would help him increase his chances as soon as possible. "It seems you have already decided on your path," Elvos said, and he seemed to look at the swordsman before him in a different way. He no longer viewed Surfeng as a weaker being but as an equal. He then retrieved a crystal ball and handed it to Surfeng, saying, "This is the experience I have gained over the years. I hope it will be of some help." After handing Surfeng the crystal ball, Elvos transformed into a streak of light and vanished from Poison City. The 2 Tier 4 NPCs who had accompanied him also disappeared, and the dull gray longsword Crotia had wielded returned to the fountain. Removing the disaster blade from the fountain, Surfeng stored it in his bag. He had no intention of using the weapon at all. Unlike ordinary weapons, the disaster blade would convert its user's mana into dense death energy, which would affect everyone that came into contact with it, aside from the user. Just having the weapon passively equipped would influence the carrier's surroundings. The weapon's properties made it utterly unsuitable for ordinary players. Only dark players that preferred to work solo could wield the blade properly. This was another reason that Surfeng had declined the chance to strengthen the disaster blade. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World. Who Guild Leader, we finished collecting the boss's loot. Aqua Rose excitedly reported once Surfeng had finished his conversation with Elvos. We've gained quite a harvest this time. Aside from the fragmented legendary ranked mage robes, Undead's Will, we've acquired 2 epic weapons, a staff and a dagger. The complete nether set, a tier 3 set equipment for magical classes, also dropped, as well as a bunch of materials and recipes. According to your instructions, we held an internal auction for the epic weapons. Blue Frost won the staff, while Flying Shadow won the dagger. What should we do with the Undead's Will and tier 3 set equipment? Give the Undead's Will to Blue Frost. He still has to command the situation in the Dark Denver. It'll make things easier for him when he has to stand up against the various superpowers, Surfeng said after giving the matter some thought. Before Surfeng and Aqua Rose could continue their conversation, though, Dark Rhapsody's Blue Rainbow approached Surfeng. Worried, she informed him, Guild Leader Black Flame, I've just received a report stating that Demon's Heart's Alliance team has reached the first floor's 3rd boss and begun the raid. By the looks of it, they have a very high chance of taking it down. The Ancient Gods Tower's first floor had 4 bosses in total. If Demon's Heart's Alliance managed to defeat the 3rd boss, they were almost guaranteed to defeat the final boss as well. Their raiding speed is astonishing. Surfeng was similarly surprised to hear this. Each of the Ancient Gods Tower's floors was as large as a small resource map. Finding the bosses wasn't easy. However, Surfeng chuckled and assured her, fortunately we've completed our task here. It's time we return. Chapter 2585 Small Problem. Raid begins. Cold Spring Forest, Stone Forest City. After acquiring the Disaster Blade, Surfeng decided to leave Poison City immediately, using a return scroll to teleport back to Stone Forest City's Freedom Hotel. As he and his team appeared in the hotel lobby, they attracted a lot of attention from the hotel's guests. Although most of the team members had hidden their statistics and auras under black cloaks, some hadn't. As a result, a heavy pressure bore down on the players in the lobby when the team returned. It was even stronger than that of level 110 Great Lords, with some players radiating even more pressure than level 110 Grand Lords. Crap! Aren't these players' auras a little too strong? They feel even stronger than superpowers teams I've met before. Who are these people? Look, those NPCs are acting so respectfully before the swordsman in the lead. Could that be the grinding team Black Flame let out of the city earlier? You might be right. Usually, those NPCs are even indifferent toward gold members. I suspect they'd only show respect to someone of Black Flame's standing. The players in the lobby fell into a heated discussion about Shurfeng's team, and many independent players watched on in envy. Now that Zero Wing controlled the Dark World's teleportation gate, Stone Forest City was officially a sacred leveling ground for regular players. Countless players from various kingdoms and empires swarmed toward the city. Just entering the city had become a problem, not to mention renting a room in the Freedom Hotel. Zero Wing's members, however, did not have these problems. They didn't have to stand in line to enter the city or fight for a room in the Freedom Hotel. Their guild had already reserved rooms for its members. Moreover, Zero Wing's normal members received a 40% discount if paid for their rooms with GCPs, while core members received a 50% discount. These were the reasons that more players constantly sought to join the guild. And to ensure that the guild could continue its normal operations while providing the same benefits, Zero Wing had further increased the recruitment requirements. Countless players regretted not joining sooner. Meanwhile, it wasn't long after Shurfeng's team had returned that the various powers within the city heard about it. Black Flame's finally back? Dawn Dominance, who had concealed himself with a black cloak and rested in one of the Freedom Hotel's rooms, sneered as he read the latest report from his subordinate. It seems he's increased the combat power Dark Rhapsody and Deity Society's members by quite a bit. It's a pity that he's too late. Demon's Heart's team has almost pinpointed the third boss's weaknesses. It's only a matter of time before they defeat it and move on to the final boss. Guild leader Flaming Light has reported that those people are now in Cold Spring Forest. Should we leave? A level 109 Tier 3 Elementalist asked from beside Dawn Dominance. Good. Yes, we'll head over immediately. I want to see just what kind of powerful individuals Flaming Light has invited to declare that he can help world domination take control of the Dark World, Dawn Dominance said, nodding. Following which, Dawn Dominance left Stone Forest City with his subordinates, making his way to Cold Spring Forest's outer region. At the same time, the various superpowers operating secretly in Stone Forest City only snickered at Shurfeng's return. So what if Zero Wing controlled the Dark World's teleportation gate? In the end, the Dark World's players would still reach the main continent in droves, and now that Zero Wing was their enemy, the guild would suffer once they arrived. Nowhere would be safe for Zero Wing's members outside of Cold Spring Forest. Upon his return, Shurfeng instructed the NPC manager to arrange an advanced lounge for the team to rest. Guild leader Black Flame, Demon's Heart has already begun to raid the third boss. Yet you want to rest here? Blue Rainbow anxiously complained. Although they were fatigued from their trip to Poison City, players would recover a significant fraction of their stamina and concentration when they leveled up. After that final boss, they had all leveled twice, so the team was in relatively good condition. They were more than capable of starting their raid in the Ancient God's Tower. Yet, Shurfeng had told them to rest for now, almost as if he were afraid that Demon's Heart didn't have a strong enough lead. No. Your stamina and concentration might be fine, but the secret land's death energy is still corroding your bodies. The Ancient God's Tower also has powerful foreign energy. On the off chance that these energies cause too much damage before you clear the trial, all of your efforts will go to waste. It'd be better to rest here for a while, rather than take such a risk. You can use the time to drink the exotic legacy potions you've obtained, as well, Shurfeng said, shaking his head. But the time? Shurfeng's insistence did nothing to calm Blue Rainbow's worries. The future of their two guilds was at risk. If Demon's Heart's alliance captured the first floor before they could, their guilds wouldn't survive in the Dark World for long. I doubt there will be any issues if you take full advantage of that potion, Shurfeng said, chuckling. Neither the dropped weapons and equipment, nor the awarded legacy skill points were the team's greatest reward. Instead, it was the exotic legacy potions. When players normally slew Poison City's bosses, each boss only dropped 1 or 2 exotic legacy potions. Furthermore, those bosses only respawned after 3 days. Knowing this, it was easy to imagine how valuable the potions were. However, because the team had completed the inferior legendary quest, Every member had been awarded one bottle. Although a single exotic legacy potion might not help someone fully unlock their mana body, in combination with the Freedom Hotel's astounding environment, it would help these players unlock a sizable percentage. That percentage alone would grant a massive boost to their combat power, since it tremendously improved their skills and spells power. However, Shurfang's advice confused Blue Rainbow and Elder Gold. What did he mean by take full advantage? Of course he had a point. While their consecutive leveling had cleansed them of a portion of the foreign energy, much still remained. If this energy and the energy within the tower corroded too much of their bodies halfway into the raid, they'd be doomed. Blue Rainbow and Elder Gold immediately stopped wasting time. They instructed all of their players to move to the reserved lounge, rest, and consume the exotic legacy potions. In total, the team rested for over an hour. Once they felt refreshed, Blue Rainbow and Elder Gold hurried toward the Dark World's Ancient Gods Tower with their respective guilds' main force members. By the time the group arrived, another 4 hours had passed. The Ancient Gods Tower had 7 floors and was over 1,000 meters tall. Players whom the Dark World's various powers had stationed to guard the entrance didn't try to stop the group when Blue Rainbow and Elder Gold arrived. They simply stepped aside and let the force enter the tower, notifying the team within of their arrival. Meanwhile, a 6-meter-tall, level 113 mythic ranked or lay lifeless before Demon's Heart's team within an ancient city on the Ancient Gods Tower's first floor. Elder Heart, our scouts have located the 4th ancient city, a level 110, Tier 3 Dark Ranger reported, approaching Furious Heart. In addition, our brothers at the entrance have informed me that Dark Rhapsody and Deity Society's members have entered the tower. They finally decided to show up? The report surprised Furious Heart. How many people did they send? Are Zero Wings members with them? Their team had already defeated the first floor's 3rd boss and located the final boss. He found it surprising that the 2 guilds would bother to show up now. They must have brought powerful support with them, and were confident of surpassing the Alliance team's progress. Just a little over 200. We didn't see any of Zero Wings members or the Outside Worlds players among their team, the Dark Ranger reported. Just a little over 200? Have those guilds lost their minds? For a moment, Furious Heart wondered if he had misheard the Tier 3 Dark Ranger. Demon's Heart's Alliance had sent over 1,000 Tier 3 experts, just to increase their chances of raiding the Ancient Gods Tower. What could a measly 200-plus Tier 3 experts possibly accomplish? Read latest chapters at Wuxia World. Who should we send our spies to find out more? The Dark Ranger asked. No need. To think they would dare enter the tower with so few players, do they think this is some kind of playground? Furious Heart said, shaking his head. Chuckling, he continued, let them struggle. They're only fools if they thought they could rely on Zero Wing. Once we finish our raid, we'll make them regret their decision. With that, Furious Heart commanded his team to head toward the final boss. He completely disregarded the matter involving Dark Rhapsody and Deity Society. In the meantime, Dark Rhapsody and Deity Society's main force members stopped before the doors to the Ancient Gods Tower's first floor. All right, let's start the raid, Blue Rainbow exclaimed, glancing over the team. Chapter 2586 Surpassing Logic, Ancient Gods Tower Unlock Dark World, Ancient Gods Tower. A team of over 1,000 players fought the wandering barbaric ores as they advanced across a gravel wasteland, but due to the high number of the ores, the team's progress was quite slow. From afar, it looked like the team was drowning in a sea of ores. Aside from the area the players occupied, the barbaric ores covered every inch of the wasteland. Barbaric ore, humanoid creature, High Lord, level 112 HP 570000/57000000, Barbaric or Warrior, humanoid creature, Great Lord, level 113 HP 1400000/140000000, Barbaric or Captain, humanoid creature, Grand Lord, level 114 HP 500, 000/500, 000/000, Elder Heart. Too many monsters are swarming out of the ancient city. If we get any closer, I'm afraid we'll alert the Ore guards on the city walls. one of the level 110, Tier 3 shield warriors on the front lines called back. Although the first 3 cities had been difficult to raid, none had had this many monsters. The 4th ancient city was home to at least 100,000 ores. If their team hadn't been entirely comprised of Tier 3 experts, these barbaric ores and barbaric ore warriors would have long since eliminated them. Why is this city so much harder? Furious Heart frowned, watching the barbaric ore captains on the city walls. Gritting his teeth, he commanded, "Everyone change formation. Prioritize the ores here before we continue." While their team was more than capable of dealing with level 114 Grandlords, there were more than 30 Grandlords stationed on the walls. In the outside world, such a force could effortlessly demolish guild towns. There were simply too many ores and ore warriors for a team of their size to handle. With Furious Heart's command hanging in the air, the team moved out of their V formation into a block formation. The MTs and melee players held back the swarming ores, while the ranged players attacked from within the block's inner layer. Once everyone was in position, the team's magic class players began to chant long incantations. More than 100 gigantic magic arrays appeared above the ore force, blotting out the sky. For seconds later, the arrays had taken shape and rained fire, ice, and lightning down on the ores below. Boom, boom, boom. Deafening explosions echoed across the gravel wasteland. By the time the last large-scale destruction spell came to an end, the surrounding terrain had transformed. Easily over 4,000 barbaric ore and barbaric ore warrior corpses littered the deformed land. Nice! A team with plenty of large-scale destruction spells is awesome. I know, right? My usual team only has a few people with Tier 3 large-scale destruction spells, yet we currently have over 100. I doubt even superpowers can field such a powerful team. It's a pity that the tower's monsters don't drop any loot and grant almost no EXP, otherwise we would have hit the jackpot. The various major powers experts were astonished at the carnage around them. They knew that Demon's Heart had gone around the Dark World, borrowing manpower from the various major powers to raid the Ancient Gods Tower and prioritizing players with Tier 3 large-scale destruction spells. However, only a few players at a time had cast these spells during their prior battles. They hadn't been allowed to cast these spells simultaneously. The shock they felt after watching over 100 large-scale destruction spells go off at once was on a completely new level. The team members also realized how important players with such devastating spells were. They had to admit that these magical class players were walking cannons in large-scale combat. I wonder what Dark Rhapsody and Deity Society's people are thinking. I can't believe they're trying to race us to the final boss with just 200+ players. Their full team is smaller than the number of players we have with Tier 3 large-scale destruction spells, a Tier 3 ranger said, laughing at the destruction around him. I doubt they have any idea how many large-scale destruction spellcasters we have on our team. If they knew, they'd likely just give up, a Tier 3 elementalist added, chuckling. Dark Rhapsody and Deity Society were formidable guilds in the Dark World, but they weren't strong enough to compete with the combined might of the Otherworld's various major powers. Even the weakest member on the Alliance team was a Refinement Realm expert in full level 105 fine gold equipment. Even the various superpowers only had a few experts with such high equipment standards, yet every member of the Alliance team wore such equipment. How, exactly, did Dark Rhapsody and Deity Society plan to compete with them? Enough chit-chat. We need to eliminate these barbaric ores quickly. If we take our time and they respawn during the boss fight, we'll be in trouble. Furious Heart shouted, chuckling. He hadn't been worried about the two guilds' attempt to raid the Ancient Gods Tower since the very beginning. Not even Zero Wing could help them now. Not only did the Alliance team consist of peak combatants from the Dark World's various major powers, but it also had support from the main continent's various superpowers. Finally, after over a dozen hours of fighting, Furious Heart and his team had obliterated the barbaric ore army on the gravel wasteland and in the ancient city. Now, only the final boss and a few guards remained. Barbaric ore king. Humanoid creature. Archaic species mythic, level 114 HP 3,500,000, 000/3500, 0000000. Barbaric ore guard. Humanoid creature. Specialized Grandlord. Level 114 HP 600, 00000/600,000 when they saw the barbaric or king and 8 barbaric or guards in the ancient tower within the city's heart, Furious Heart and his companions gasped. An ordinary mythic boss was already a major challenge due to their incredibly high basic attributes and combat standards. However, a mythic-ranked archaic species was even more powerful in both regards. Meanwhile, the system would enhance one aspect of specialized monsters. In other words, they could transcend tiers in a specific way. Hence, specialized Grand Lord's combat power could sometimes rival that of ordinary mythic monsters. Now their team had to face 8 pseudo-mythic monsters, and including the boss, a total of 9 Tier 4 opponents. This force could even destroy guild cities. Elder Heart, the guards and the boss are too close to each other. If we attack one, all 9 will respond, a level 110 Tier 3 assassin from World Domination warned, frowning. Then we have no choice but to fight them all at the same time. Once we begin, lure the 8 monster guards aside and kill them first. We'll focus on the boss afterward. Furious Heart decided after giving the matter some thought. His teammates nodded when they heard his plan. While quite a few mobs surrounded the boss, they had over 1,000 players and could easily afford to split up their combat power to distract the boss, while the rest finished off the guards who had significantly less HP. Once the plan had been agreed upon, everyone got to work. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World. Just as the team's MTs were about to split up and lure the boss and its 8 guards, however, they all heard the sound of a series of system notifications. Ancient Gods Tower Region System Announcement. A team has successfully completed the trial of the Ancient Gods Tower's first floor. The teleportation arrays on the first floor have now been unlocked. Ancient Gods Tower Region System Announcement. A team has successfully completed the trial of the Ancient Gods Tower's first floor. All players on the first floor will be automatically teleported to the first floor's inner sanctum in 3 minutes. Please make the necessary preparations. How is this possible? After hearing the system announcements, the central tower went quiet. Chapter 2587 One Step Ahead? Frightening levels. We haven't even started on the boss, yet the trial's been cleared? Did another team get ahead of us? Did some power send a team into the tower in secret before we got here? Impossible. No one can field a team powerful enough to clear the tower without anyone noticing. No one on the Alliance team could believe their ears when they heard the system announcement. At the same time, they all wondered which team had just conquered the Ancient Gods Tower's first floor. But even after racking their brains for a long moment, they couldn't think of anyone who could pull it off. They had first-hand experience with the first floor trial, so they knew just how challenging it was. Not only would a team need at least 1,000 Tier 3 Refinement Realm experts, but they'd also have to be fully armed with top-tier equipment. Their Alliance team had even been forced to borrow their top-tier weapons and equipment from the main continent's various superpowers. Procuring enough of these items was simply impossible for the Dark World's various major powers. Could it be Dark Rhapsody and Deity Society's team, Elder Heart? The level 110, Tier 3 assassin from World Domination wondered. Impossible. Furious Heart's reply was instinctive. They only entered the tower less than half a day ago. With just 200+ players, they won't even be able to handle the outer area's monsters, much less the monsters within the 4 ancient cities. I guess you're right. Even with top-tier equipment, they'd need a lot of time to figure out the boss's patterns and weaknesses. They'll be lucky to raid the first boss so quickly, not to mention all 4, the assassin said. He silently scolded himself for being stupid enough to think Dark Rhapsody and Deity Society could be responsible for capturing the first floor. Since they couldn't do it, who just did? Everyone in the Dark World knew that Dark Rhapsody, Deity Society, and World Domination were the 3 strongest guilds in their other world, and no other guild could compare. Hence, he found it hard to imagine that some hidden power, capable of accomplishing such a feat, existed. I don't know who foiled our plans, but it's fine as long as it wasn't Dark Rhapsody or Deity Society, Furious Heart commented after taking a moment to calm his rage. We'll figure out who they are when they system teleports us to the inner sanctum. The appearance of a third faction certainly surprised Furious Heart, but it wasn't something to make a fuss over. Plenty of major corporations had invested in God's domain, and there were bound to be some who secretly developed their powers, waiting for an opportunity to shine. That was, after all, Demon's Heart's situation. This wasn't the worst possible outcome. With how much influence Demon's Heart and the various superpowers possessed, they weren't afraid that this third faction wouldn't cooperate. Rather, allying with them would be the wisest move this faction could make. The other powers members nodded in agreement. Their team represented the majority of the Dark World's major powers. Refusing to cooperate would be tantamount to suicide. The Ancient Gods Tower wasn't the only way out of the Dark World, and players could contest for its ruling rights once a month. The easiest way to determine the tower's new owner once that month was up was to host a battle between players, not a simple contest of who could raid the tower the fastest. Shortly after Furious Heart fell silent, a teleportation array appeared under everyone's feet, sending all of them to the tower's inner sanctum. Ancient Gods Tower, first floor central hall. A flash of white light filled the central hall's plaza as all players on the first floor teleported in. The first floor's central hall was roughly the size of 3 sports stadiums. Aside from the stone golems that maintained security, the hall contained a large number of hotels, restaurants, and shops. This place could easily accommodate 100,000 players. Quick! Find those people! Furious Heart commanded as soon as he arrived. Although getting a clear view of the plaza with a glance was possible, they couldn't do anything to stop the third faction's members from fleeing. Players weren't allowed to fight within the Ancient Gods Tower's inner sanctum, and players could freely use return scrolls in this area. However, the Alliance team members were stunned by what they found in their search for the mysterious third faction. Aside from Dark Rhapsody and Deity Society's 200-plus members and themselves, the plaza was empty. Where are they? Furious Heart also looked around, confused. Have they already escaped? No. Impossible. Everyone teleported at the same time. Even if they used return scrolls the moment they arrived, we should have still seen them. While Furious Heart and his team frantically searched for this third faction, 2 figures approached them. However, Furious Heart and the others instinctively ignored them. The 2 figures were none other than Dark Rhapsody's Blue Rainbow and Deity Society's Elder Gold. Long time no see, Elder Heart. Blue Rainbow greeted Furious Heart as she walked up to him. Long time no see? If I recall, we met only a few days ago, Furious Heart rudely responded. He had visited the 2 guilds personally to persuade them to join with Demon's Heart. Blue Rainbow had received him when he visited Dark Rhapsody, but both guilds had foolishly and definitively refused Demon's Heart's goodwill, siding with Zero Wing instead. Furious Heart didn't doubt that these 2 were here to ridicule the Alliance team for failing to capture the Ancient Gods Tower's first floor. Is such behavior necessary, Elder Heart? I am only here to pass on a message from Guild Leader Black Flame, Blue Rainbow said, unfazed by man's attitude. Relay a message? I hadn't realized that Dark Rhapsody's honorary elder had become Zero Wing's errand girl. The world really has changed, Furious Heart said, sneering. That's right. The world has changed. Some people just refuse to acknowledge it, Blue Rainbow responded, not angered in the least by Furious Heart's provocation. Chuckling, she continued, Guild Leader Black Flame's message is simple. Develop yourselves quietly, and don't cause unnecessary trouble. If you refuse, there will be consequences. Consequences? With just Zero Wing's strength? Demon's Heart's foundation and strength are leagues beyond what Zero Wing can imagine. Furious Heart growled disdainfully. While I admit that we failed to secure the first floor's first clear, can't the same be said of you? The same of us? The question surprised Blue Rainbow. After a moment, she simply shook her head before turning and leaving without another word. Elder Gold, who had stood beside her, just chuckled before he walked off. What are you laughing about? Furious Heart bellowed after the older man. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World. He didn't receive a reply, however, and in the next moment, Dark Rhapsody and Deity Society's members pulled return scrolls from their bag as they prepared to leave the Ancient Gods Tower. Just as Furious Heart was about to say something else, he heard a voice. Something's not right, Elder Heart. Look at their levels. The assassin from World Domination exclaimed. Everyone from the Alliance team turned to examine the other players' levels, and what they saw left them utterly flabbergasted. Level 115. How is that possible? Chapter 2588 Inhuman Abilities Dark World Shaken. Furious Heart was dumbfounded at the levels of Blue Rainbow and the others. Even the peak experts of God's domain had only reached level 110 and were still a far cry from level 111. Nevertheless, the majority of Dark Rhapsody's and Deity Society's members present here were at level 115 already, with even the lowest leveled player among them at level 114. How are their levels so high? What did Zero Wing do? Furious Heart's eyes were wide with astonishment as he gaped at Blue Rainbow and Elder Gold. Furious Heart had personally met Blue Rainbow and Elder Gold just a few days ago. Back then, both of them were only at level 109. Now, in less than a week, they had actually leveled up 6 times and reached level 115. The only explanation Furious Heart could think of for this situation was the expedition Dark Rhapsody's and Deity Society's main force members had gone on with Zero Wing. However, no matter how he cudgeled his brains, he simply couldn't figure out how Zero Wing could fast-track the 2 guilds' main force members leveling that much. Past level 100, leveling up became incredibly difficult. Even Tier 3 experts would need 2 or 3 consecutive days of relentless grinding to level up once. However, the 2 guilds' main force members had disappeared for just a little more than 3 days, yet every one of them had gained around 5 or 6 levels, which meant they leveled up nearly twice a day. Even a super guild mobilizing all of its available strength to help just one individual level up couldn't accomplish such a feat. Zero Wing, on the other hand, had done so for more than 200 players. Just what kind of resources and manpower would such a feat entail? Elder Heart, look at their equipment, the Tier 3 assassin from World Domination said, pointing at the gear of Dark Rhapsody's and Deity Society's members. When Furious Heart did as the assassin suggested, he gasped in shock. Am I dreaming? Furious Heart muttered. Previously, his attention had been fully occupied with searching for the supposed third faction that had captured the ancient god's tower. Hence, he had instinctively ignored the members of Dark Rhapsody and Deity Society. However, after scrutinizing the 2 guilds' members, he noticed that the majority of them wore secret silver equipment mixed in with some fine gold and dark gold equipment. In terms of rank, the 2 guilds' members' equipment couldn't even compete against that of the Alliance team members, who were fully geared in fine gold equipment. However, Furious Heart still felt an incredibly powerful pressure coming from the 2 guilds' members. Logically, this shouldn't be possible even with a 5-level disparity. The only explanation Furious Heart could think of for this situation was that the 2 guilds' members boasted level 115 plus weapons and equipment. In terms of basic attributes, level 110 secret silver equipment was roughly equal with level 105 fine gold equipment. Meanwhile, although players would gain some basic attributes from leveling up 5 times, the increase wouldn't rest carrot in a huge gap in basic attributes. At the very least, there needed to be a 1-rank difference for such a disparity to exist. Hence, the only logical explanation was that the secret silver equipment Dark Rhapsody and Deity Society's members were using was level 115. Currently, level 110 equipment was incredibly rare even for the various superpowers, while level 115 equipment was something nobody dared to dream of obtaining right now. After all, obtaining level 115 equipment required killing level 115 plus monsters. And generally, only monsters at the Great Lord rank or above had a chance of dropping secret silver equipment. Meanwhile, all 200 plus members of Dark Rhapsody and Deity Society's team were fully geared in level 115 secret silver equipment or better. This was simply ridiculous. Guild leader, it seems we really made the wrong choice. The level 110 assassin from World Domination could not help a bitter smile as he gazed at Blue Rainbow and the others. A third faction capturing the ancient god's tower? That was merely their arbitrary wish. In reality, the ones responsible for capturing the ancient god's tower were none other than the joint team of Dark Rhapsody and Deity Society. However, the only reason why the 2 guilds succeeded was Zero Wing's help. Meanwhile, just because of Zero Wing's help, Dark Rhapsody and Deity Society had gone from being inferior to World Domination to surpassing World Domination by a large margin. In fact, Dark Rhapsody and Deity Society were now at a level where World Domination could only look up to them in awe. With the 2 guilds having captured the ancient god's tower, it was already obvious that they would experience tremendous development in the Dark World. In the future, the 2 guilds would definitely become the rulers of the Dark World. Meanwhile, after their conquest of the ancient god's tower, Blue Rainbow and Elder Gold did not place any more attention on the tower, making their way back to their respective headquarters to rest instead. After all, they didn't need to manage the tower. Currently, the only option the Dark World's various powers and players had to leave the Dark World was the teleportation gate connected to Cold Spring Forest. As for using the Ancient Gods Tower's teleportation arrays, that would simply be a waste of time and resources. After all, they would first have to transit through another otherworld to get to the main continent. Shortly after Blue Rainbow and the others left the Central Hall, news of Dark Rhapsody and Deity Society capturing the Ancient Gods Tower also started spreading like wildfire across the entire Dark World. For a time, the Dark World was in an uproar. How is this possible? Didn't they say that Demon's Heart allied with the various major powers to raid the Ancient Gods Tower? Those two guilds are that strong now? Dark Rhapsody and Deity Society actually took control of the Ancient Gods Tower. With this, it seems that everyone in the Dark World will have to listen to those two guilds. Seeing as not many people are joining those two guilds now, let's use this opportunity to join them quickly, while we can still do so easily. At the news of Dark Rhapsody and Deity Society's achievement, some players celebrated while others felt disappointed. Nobody had ever entertained the thought of such an outcome. The alliance that Demon's Heart formed with the Dark World's various major powers had actually suffered defeat. This outcome solidified Dark Rhapsody and Deity Society's position as the top two guilds of the Dark World. Now, the dissatisfaction of the Dark World's many players no longer mattered. Nobody would be able to stop the two guilds' development. Trying to do so would simply be suicide. After all, the two guilds could easily prevent their enemies from ever setting foot outside the Dark World. While players could grind and level up inside the Dark World, it was sorely lacking in level 100+ resources. Players restricted to grinding in the Dark World would experience extremely slow leveling speeds. If this situation continued over a long period, the gap between the two guilds members and those barred from leaving the Dark World would only widen. Meanwhile, among the Dark World's players, the ones most surprised by this outcome would have to be the members of Dark Rhapsody and Deity Society, especially the upper echelons and guild leaders of the two guilds. However, what truly surprised the upper echelons and guild leaders of the two guilds wasn't the successful capture of the Ancient Gods Tower's first floor but the levels and equipment of Blue Rainbow, Elder Gold, and the others. With such levels and equipment, no power would be capable of contending against their two guilds even on the main continent, much less in the Dark World. However, only Blue Rainbow, Elder Gold, and the members of the two guilds' main forces knew that, in reality, their greatest gains from partnering with Zero Wing weren't these things but the exotic legacy potions they obtained. Due to the exotic legacy potion and the Freedom Hotel's effects, every member of their team had successfully unlocked 40% of their mana body's potential on average. As for Blue Rainbow and Elder Gold, the two of them had even managed to release 60%, only 40% away from fully unlocking their mana bodies. Cold Spring Forest, Stone Forest City, Freedom Hotel. Guild leader, this is terrible. Now, not only have Dark Rhapsody and Deity Society taken control of the Ancient Gods Tower, but their main force members are also far ahead than ours in both levels and equipment. At this rate, I'm afraid, a level 110, Tier 3 assassin from World Domination said worriedly to Dawn Dominance, who was currently resting inside the Freedom Hotel, through a video chat. It seems I really underestimated Zero Wing. I never thought that it would possess such capabilities. Those two guilds sure have found themselves a powerful backer this time, Dawn Dominance remarked, his mood indescribably calm despite having read his subordinate's report regarding Dark Rhapsody and Deity Society's achievements. His reaction made it seem as if this matter was completely unrelated to him. In fact, a faint smile even graced his face right now. Guild leader. The Tier 3 assassin was confused when he saw Dawn Dominance's reaction. I admit that Zero Wing is very powerful. However, Zero Wing's era will end very soon, Dawn Dominance said, chuckling. Guild leader, do you have some method to deal with Zero Wing and the two other guilds? The assassin asked, curious. Zero Wing, Dark Rhapsody, and Deity Society currently controlled all the exits from the Dark World. The daily growth of the three guilds was no laughing matter. He found it truly hard to imagine that World Domination had some way to oppose Zero Wing. Take a look at this, Dawn Dominance said, his smile widening as he took out a dark gray crystal ball and displayed it through the video chat. As soon as Dawn Dominance took out the crystal ball, the space around it started darkening, the corrupted space giving off an indescribably strange feeling. In fact, even space itself started cracking due to the evil energy the crystal ball released. What dense energy! It can practically rival the energy in 7 luminaries crystals. The assassin exclaimed in shock. I need you to do something for me. Take this crystal and harvest the lives of the Dark World's players. Harvest as many as you can. Once this crystal has collected enough energy, it'll be the end of Zero Wing and those 2 other guilds. Dawn Dominance said. Understood. I'll get it done right away. The assassin nodded before disconnecting the call. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World. In the meantime, when the main continent's various superpowers found out that Dark Rhapsody and Deity Society had taken control of the Ancient Gods Tower, they could not help feeling surprised at Zero Wing's capabilities. As for Shifeng, after resting sufficiently, he returned to Star Moon Kingdom's White River City. White River City, Adventurers Association, 2nd floor VIP reception room. Lord Bronze Legatee, how may I be of service? Senior Administrator Lorraine asked, smiling as she entered the room. I wish to transfer the Lost Town under my name to the Ten Saints Empire's Demon Wolf Mountain Range. May I know if that is possible? Shifeng asked her. The loot from raiding Poison City included not only excellent equipment and materials but also a town transfer order for level 100+ maps. Now that Stone Forest City had already taken root in Cold Spring Forest, it should not be moved casually. However, to ensure that he could travel between the 2 main continents consistently, he needed to establish a stronghold in the Demon Wolf Mountain Range as well. Moreover, this stronghold had to remain a secret. After giving the matter some thought, he felt that the Lost Town was the best option. Chapter 2589 Medium Teleportation Point. The Lost Town served as Zero Wing's secret stronghold for nurturing talents. Even now, very few guild members knew of its existence. Generally, only core members with great potential had the qualifications to set foot into the town. Moreover, these core experts needed to undergo multiple inspections before receiving the approval to enter the Lost Town. After all, the extraordinary tower's function was simply crucial. Now that Shifeng wished to establish a stable teleportation point inside the Demon Wolf Mountain Range, the Lost Town was his best option. Firstly, the teleportation point linking the 2 main continents could not be disclosed to too many people. Hence, the stronghold established in the Demon Wolf Mountain Range should have as few players operating within it as possible. Secondly, the size of the stronghold should not be too large, to limit the manpower and resources required for its upkeep. Otherwise, concealing it would be very difficult. Other powers keeping an eye on Zero Wing would definitely grow suspicious if a significant portion of the guild's funds was disappearing for no good reason. The Lost Town fulfilled both conditions perfectly. Of course, the act of transferring a guild town to a level 100+ neutral map was also incredibly insane. After all, the dangers lurking in level 100+ neutral maps were no laughing matter. If the guild town in question lacked sufficient defenses, it might not survive the first monster tide that assaulted it. However, with Zero Wing's current strength, so long as Shifeng did not move the Lost Town too deep into the Demon Wolf Mountain Range, defending it from the periodic monster tides was still feasible. Lord Bronze Legatee, transferring your town to the Demon Wolf Mountain Range is very dangerous. Once your town is transferred there, it will no longer be protected by any kingdom or empire. Are you sure you wish to go through with the transfer? Lorraine asked. I'm sure, Shifeng replied with a nod. Very well. Please specify your exact transfer location, Lorraine said as she took out a map of the Demon Wolf Mountain Range. Let's move it here, Shifeng said as he pointed at a gravel hill in the Demon Wolf Mountain Range's inner area. In the past, the Demon Wolf Mountain Range had been incredibly famous in God's domain for having 2 teleportation points connected to the western continent. However, unlike the first teleportation point Shifeng secured, which was the magic gate hidden beneath the frozen lake, the second teleportation point was a medium teleportation point with special circumstances. The medium teleportation point was inside a demon wolf den. Players that wished to activate the teleportation array there had to clear out the monsters within the den first. However, the monsters inside this den would respawn periodically. Moreover, they would grow stronger with each respawn. In addition, nobody could truly take control of the teleportation point, so once the gate was activated, Any player could make use of the gate so long as they had sufficient magic crystals. Due to this reason, the various superpowers had desperately fought to monopolize this teleportation point. The fires of war had never once ceased after the teleportation gate's discovery. Even after a decade had passed in God's domain, the situation surrounding the teleportation point remained extremely volatile. Currently, Surpassing was urgently trying to secure more teleportation points linking the two main continents. However, he would need to invest a lot of time if he wished to activate and secure the other teleportation points he knew of, as activating those teleportation points involved a series of quests. Either that or the teleportation points were small ones that could send only a handful of players with each use. Hence, the medium teleportation point located in the Demon Wolf Mountain Range was his only option. Moreover, the Demon Wolf Mountain Range's medium teleportation point was in a level 120+ area, which was still a blind spot for current superpowers. He could use this opportunity to thoroughly stabilize his rule over the area. Thus, going for this teleportation point wasn't a particularly bad choice. Location verified. Please produce your town transfer order. In addition, you have to pay a transfer fee of 80,000 gold, Lorraine said. Once you complete the payment, we will transfer your town to the desired location as soon as possible. 80,000? Surpassing was astonished at this price. Although transferring guild towns and cities to level 100+ neutral maps generally cost a lot of money, the transfer fees were scaled, based on the target's rank. Meanwhile, the Lost Town was merely a basic town, yet it cost 80,000 gold to transfer it to the Demon Wolf Mountain Range's inner area. This was completely outside of his expectations. If he were transferring a basic city instead of a basic town, the transfer would most likely bankrupt him. That's right. Not only is the location you have selected far, but it is also somewhat special. Hence, the transfer fee is slightly more expensive. However, please rest assured that the additional charges we collect are fair and reasonable, Lorraine said, smiling. All right. Here is the town transfer order and 80,000 gold, Surpassing answered as he passed the document and the funds to Lorraine. He inwardly celebrated the fact that Stone Forest City had been raking in the profits recently. Despite the substantial increase in Zero Wing's daily expenditure due to the number of guild experts increasing to 220,000, the guild still managed to save up a liquid fund of 170,000 gold. Otherwise, he really wouldn't have been able to afford the transfer fee this time. Payment received. The transfer will be done in 30 minutes. You have 1 day to complete the handover procedures. Our security personnel will leave the site after 1 day. So please complete the handover procedures as soon as possible, Lorraine reminded after receiving payment. At the same time as Lorraine finished speaking, the Lost Town in the distant Boneless Land suddenly disappeared. Now, only a bunch of confused Zero Wing members remained in the barren wasteland. And in no time at all, Surpassing received a call request from Aqua Rose. Guild leader Big Trouble. The Lost Town disappeared. Aqua Rose reported anxiously. The Lost Town was Zero Wing's secret training ground for nurturing expert players. Although the town currently housed only several hundred players, all the experts that successfully reached the Truth Realm were more adept at fighting against monsters than even Refinement Realm experts. The only problem was that the players being nurtured at the Lost Town were all very low-leveled newcomers. The majority of them hadn't even reached level 100 yet, much less tier 3. Nevertheless, so long as these players caught up in levels and tiers, they would become mainstays of Zero Wing. And with the help of these players, Zero Wing would finally gain the qualifications to stand toe-to-toe with the various superpowers. Hence, the Lost Town's sudden disappearance would have a significant impact on Zero Wing's future development. It's fine. I did it, Surpassing said, chuckling. Surpassing's words confused Aqua Rose. You made it disappear? The Lost Town was serving its purpose just perfectly. So why did Surpassing make it disappear right when Zero Wing was rapidly expanding its scale of operations? The guild needed to nurture plenty of expert players to ensure normal operations. I transferred the Lost Town to the Demon Wolf Mountain Range's inner area. In the future, we wouldn't have to worry about the trainees sacrificing their levels to improve their combat standards, Surpassing said, nodding. The Demon Wolf Mountain Range's inner area? Isn't that a level 120 grinding spot? Aqua Rose's eyes widened in shock when she heard Surpassing's statement. She felt that he was simply insane for carrying out the transfer. Level 100 plus maps were incredibly dangerous. This was especially so for the Demon Wolf Mountain Range. Transferring Stone Forest City into Cold Spring Forest had been incredibly risky. Fortunately, there was the Night Division. With the Night Division's strength and the city's defensive capabilities, they were able to cope with the monster tides. In fact, the Night Division even took the initiative to wipe out any approaching monster tides. The Lost Town, on the other hand, was only a basic town. Its defensive capabilities were pitifully weak. Even though Zero Wing had strengthened the town repeatedly and constructed plenty of defense turrets and arrow towers as well as a defensive wall, the Lost Town was still a basic town. Without the protection of an NPC kingdom or empire, it would face destruction very quickly. Relax. It should be able to hold against the monster tides, Shifeng said, understanding Aqua Rose's concern. But that's a level 120 neutral map. Despite Shifeng's reassurance, Aqua Rose still could not help worrying. After all, the Lost Town did not have the protection of a Night Division. Right, how is the collection of the disabled guards coming along? Shifeng asked, changing the topic. The collection of the disabled guards is progressing relatively smoothly. We have over 100 of them already. As per your instructions, we gathered only those with growth potentials above 20. However, even the strongest one only has 32 growth potential, Aqua Rose said. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World. You that many already? Shifeng was surprised when he heard Aqua Rose's report. Gather them all at the residence immediately. It's about time we put them to work. Previously, although he had strengthened plenty of personal guards using the Ancient Gods literature fragment, they were still far from sufficient for Zero Wing's needs. However, collecting the soul essences necessary for soul strengthening was not an easy task. Moreover, NPCs with high growth potential were incredibly rare. Since locating the last batch of NPCs until now, Zero Wing had barely found any NPCs with high growth potential. This could also be said to be the literature fragment's limitation. However, the Tree of Life's Water of Life was different. Not only could it raise the growth potential of NPCs slightly, but it could also resurrect dead NPCs or heal heavily injured NPCs within a short time. The Water of Life was mana from heaven for NPCs that had their growth potential drastically reduced due to heavy injuries. After Shifeng finished speaking, he took out a guild transfer scroll and immediately teleported back to Stone Forest City. Chapter 2590 Water of Life's Effects Stone Forest City. Zero Wing's residence. Inside the residence's large conference room, over 100 NPCs exuding despondent and listless auras currently stood in line. These NPCs were either crippled or civilians with extremely weak life auras. As for clothing, they wore either battered armor or tattered linen clothes. And even the highest leveled person among them was just a little over level 50, with the lowest leveled person being level 20. Due to the presence of these NPCs, the gorgeous conference room looked more like a refugee camp. Guild leader, everyone's here, Aqua Rose reported as she approached Shifeng. Do you really plan on using the precious Water of Life on these people? At this point, she had already found out about the Tree of Life planted in the Freedom Hotel's top-floor courtyard because, during Shifeng's absence, 3 other people were tasked with ensuring the courtyard's normal operation. She was one of those people. Back when she first saw the fragmented divine artifact ranked Tree of Life, her mind had frozen in shock. She had never dreamed that the guild she belonged to was so amazing. Currently, the various superpowers of God's domain didn't even possess legendary items yet, let alone fragmented divine artifacts. Zero Wing, however, had a fragmented divine artifact. Moreover, the Tree of Life could even produce 17 drops of Water of Life daily. The Water of Life was an incredibly precious item that was obtainable only by luck in God's domain. After all, the Water of Life could be used to resurrect dead NPCs. For the various powers who were extremely worried about their personal guards dying, the Water of Life was an absolute treasure. After all, personal guards were far more powerful than players, capable of feats that were beyond current players' capabilities. Only, obtaining a few drops of Water of Life was an incredibly difficult task even for the superpowers. As a result, the superpowers did not dare to casually field their personal guards on risky operations. Zero Wing, however, produced 17 drops of Water of Life each day. Hence, they wouldn't have to worry about losing their powerful personal guards at all, and could freely deploy these NPCs on all kinds of quests and expeditions. However, even for the current Zero Wing, the daily production of 17 drops of Water of Life was still a little too low for the guild's needs. If they needed to heal these 100+ NPCs, they would have to expend the entire stockpile they had accumulated thus far. It might be fine if they were spending all their Water of Life on healing NPCs with high growth potential, but the NPCs gathered here were all NPCs with very poor growth potential. Even if they recovered to peak condition, their growth potential wouldn't increase by much. Using the Water of Life on these NPCs would simply be a waste. I want to test my luck, Surfeng said, smiling when he saw the reluctance on Aqua Rose's face. Test your luck. Surfeng's answer exasperated Aqua Rose. While testing one's luck was fine, doing so at the cost of Water of Life was simply an extravagance. If God's Domain's various powers heard about this, they would definitely go crazy and try to choke Surfeng to death. You never know what we'll get, Surfeng retorted, chuckling. In any case, it's a waste to let the Water of Life simply sit in storage doing nothing. Spending Water of Life to heal these crippled NPCs was indeed prodigal. However, nobody could guarantee that these NPCs would remain mediocre after they recovered to their peak. Moreover, he didn't have Aqua Rose randomly gather injured NPCs either. Instead, he had her select injured NPCs that were at Tier 3 or above. At the same time, these NPCs also needed to have a growth potential of 20 or higher. In God's Domain, any NPC capable of reaching Tier 3 would not possess a low growth potential. Meanwhile, the 20-point mark for growth potential was a major turning point for Tier 3 NPCs. In the past, the various superpowers had experimented with using Water of Life on crippled Tier 3 NPCs. The result they obtained was that all crippled Tier 3 NPCs with a growth potential lower than 20 had failed to reach a secret Silver Guard rank, even after recovering from their injuries. Of course, this did not mean that all crippled Tier 3 NPCs with a growth potential of 20 or higher would reach the secret Silver Guard standard once they recovered. The chances of success were just much greater. Fortunately, aside from Zero Wing, no other power was currently searching for such NPCs. As a result, Zero Wing managed to locate quite a number of these NPCs. And with the growth potentials of the gathered NPCs, the odds of there being excellent NPC guards among them were quite high. In fact, so long as 2 or 3 fine gold guards emerged among these 100+ NPCs, Zero Wing would have hit the jackpot. After all, NPCs capable of reaching the Dark Gold Guard standard were incredibly rare in God's Domain. Although Surfeng had known about quite a few Dark Gold Guards during his previous life, he didn't know where to find them, as the superpowers had kept a tight lid on all information about those NPCs. He had only known about Kite's whereabouts and circumstances because Kite had originated from Star Moon Kingdom, and his owner was a merchant player with loose lips. Following which, Surfeng provided 1 drop of Water of Life to every NPC present, his actions giving Aqua Rose a heartache. Every drop of Water of Life was equivalent to the life of an NPC with high growth potential. The Water of Life could also drastically increase the leveling speed of their guild members. The guild could raid mythic field bosses without worrying about the price necessary to do so. These 100+ drops of Water of Life could easily elevate the strength of Zero Wing's main force to a whole new level. Upon receiving the Water of Life from Surfeng, the despondent NPCs immediately brightened up, as if they had just seen the light of hope. Once all the NPCs gathered had received their share of Water of Life, they took one last look at Surfeng before consuming the Water of Life without hesitation. A dense life aura immediately filled the room. It was so dense that the cells in Aqua Rose's body felt invigorated, her mind gaining greater clarity. After this phenomenon continued for 3 seconds, a powerful aura swept the entire room as if a dragon had awoken from its slumber. Aqua Rose could not help stumbling a few steps back. How is this possible? Aqua Rose's eyes filled with shock as she gazed at the NPCs, who still looked like a throng of beggars, standing in front of her. At this moment, however, the feeling she got from the NPCs was nothing like the aura of a beggar at all. Instead, they felt like battle-hardened warriors that had fought on innumerable battlefields. Even though they were still wearing battered armor and tattered linen clothes, their tempered auras and overflowing mana deterred ordinary people from approaching them casually. It seems we really hit the jackpot this time. Surfeng also grew a little excited when he sensed the aura of the NPCs before him. Originally, He thought that he would be lucky to get even 2 or 3 fine gold guards out of these 100+ NPCs. However, it would seem that he was sorely mistaken. The strength of the combined aura these 100+ NPCs were currently releasing could already rival that of a 100-man team of Tier 3 knights, despite these NPCs being geared in extremely shabby weapons and equipment. If they were fully equipped with epic weapons and equipment, their combined aura would definitely be much stronger than that of a 100-man team of Tier 3 knights. Following which, Shifeng and Aqua Rose started inspecting the updated statistics of these NPCs to get a better idea of these NPCs' standards. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World. Once they completed their inspection, Aqua Rose was stunned. Of the 100+ NPCs gathered, even the weakest one was at the Mysterious Iron Guard standard. These Mysterious Iron Guards numbered only 47, but every one of them possessed very high growth potential for Mysterious Iron Guards. With the help of the Ancient Gods literature fragment, Shifeng had an excellent chance of elevating them to the Secret Silver Guard standard. As for the remaining 57 NPCs, 49 of them were Secret Silver Guards, 6 were Fine Gold Guards, and 2 were Dark Gold Guards. This outcome was simply ridiculous. While Aqua Rose stared at the 2 Dark Gold Guards, Shifeng's focus was on an elderly man clad in gray robes. Despite this elderly man's growth potential being only at the Secret Silver Guard standard, Shifeng's eyes glowed with astonishment as he gazed at him. A Tier 4 Great Wizard. Chapter 2591 Zero Wings New Residence Shifeng could not believe his eyes as he gazed at the elderly man in gray before him. Tier 4. This was a bona fide powerhouse, an individual that stood at the apex of God's domain. Noticing Shifeng's shock, Aqua Rose's attention drifted to the Tier 4 Great Wizard. At first she had been surprised, but disappointment quickly followed. She had just noticed the elderly man's growth potential. What a pity, Aqua Rose said, sighing. Tier 4 is amazing, but his Secret Silver ranked growth potential will hold him back. Normally, Bronze and Mysterious Iron Guards hit their limit at Tier 3. While Secret Silver Guards were stronger than Bronze and Mysterious Iron rank, they would hit a wall at Tier 4, with minuscule chances of making it to Tier 5. More of God's Domain's players hit Tier 3 every day, and it wouldn't be long before the various superpowers peak experts began to challenge their Tier 4 promotion quests. Once they completed those quests, Tier 4 NPCs' power would become quite limited, especially that of Tier 4 Secret Silver Guards. A Tier 4 Secret Silver Guard's combat power was only on par with a Tier 4 peak expert in full top-tier equipment. They might be strong, but they weren't invincible. A pity. Shifeng shook his head and laughed, but he didn't bother to say more. We've gotten so lucky this time, Guild Leader. We now have 2 more Dark Gold Guards. A Guardian Knight and an Oracle. If your 2 guards participate, you could form a well-rounded raid party to take down high-ranked field bosses, Aqua Rose delightedly reported. Shifeng was one of White River City's counts, so he had the authority to recruit 4 personal guards. If he accepted these new Dark Gold Guards, he could use his 4 guard slots to their maximum efficiency. Dark Gold Guards were incredibly rare. Most, if not all, superpowers didn't even have one. I'll pass on these 2 Dark Gold Guards. You and Snow will each nurture one. Both of you are counts too, so you should have some extra slots, Shifeng said, shaking his head. I'll take this gray-clad elder. Dark Gold Guards were extremely useful, especially when players wouldn't have to worry about dying. Forming a standard 4-man raiding party with only Dark Gold or better guards would be a dream. However, he almost always operated alone. Rather than take the 2 Dark Gold Guards for himself, Gentle Snow and Aqua Rose could make better use of them. The 2 women frequently led grinding teams in dungeon raids. A Dark Gold Guard would greatly enhance their respective team's strength. But Guild Leader, that elder is only a Secret Silver Guard. Shifeng's decision surprised Aqua Rose. Shifeng was Zero Wings' Guild Leader, role model and face. Even if he didn't want the 2 Dark Gold Guards, he should at least take a Fine Gold Guard. Picking a Secret Silver Guard, even a Tier 4 Great Wizard, would make him a laughingstock. A Secret Silver Guard is quite powerful, Shifeng said, chuckling. He is also a Tier 4 Great Wizard. He could serve as a magistrate in a major city in any kingdom or empire. He is a true powerhouse in God's domain. Aqua Rose only saw Secret Silver Guards as worthless due to the fact that Zero Wing had more than 30 Fine Gold Guards, But even the various superpowers wouldn't have more than 2 or 3 fine gold guards at this stage of the game. Some had even fewer than that. Normally, the various superpowers treated secret silver guards like their own children, not to mention a guard that had already reached Tier 4. It should be known that secret silver guards only had a chance of reaching Tier 4. Their success wasn't guaranteed. Tier 4 wasn't just a major turning point for players but for NPCs as well. Reaching Tier 4 was an incredible feat for all in God's domain. Not even fine gold guards were guaranteed to reach Tier 4. They merely had a higher chance. Based on past players' collected statistics, fine gold guards only had a 30% chance of completing their Tier 4 promotion quest. Dark gold guards' chances were roughly around 40%. Of course, even if a personal guard failed their Tier 4 promotion quest, they could challenge it again. Players would only have to invest more resources to boost their strength. However, challenging the Tier 4 promotion quests was a time-consuming process for both players and NPCs. Personal guards would have to wait a full month before they could challenge the quest after failing it. Hence, it was easy to imagine how much time it would take to nurture a Tier 4 NPC. As for recruiting a Tier 4 NPC as one's personal guard, that was simply unheard of. Surfeng hadn't heard of a single player recruiting a Tier 4 NPC. At best, some had recruited Tier 3 NPCs. If he revealed this elderly man's information, the various superpowers would likely die with envy. While the gray-clothed wizard's growth potential was somewhat lacking compared to dark gold guards, Surfeng wasn't concerned. He had plenty of items that could raise an NPC's growth potential, and this old man's was on the high end for secret silver guards. With a little effort, upgrading him to fine gold rank was entirely possible. Following which, Surfeng recruited the elderly man as one of his personal guards. Versailles, Yifeng's personal guard. Gender: male. Age: 76. Loyalty: 75. Growth potential: 74. Level 112. Class: Tier 4 Great Wizard. When she saw Versailles' statistics, Aqua Rose was speechless. After recovering, the other Tier 3 NPCs had climbed to, on average, level 120. The Dark Gold ranked Guardian Knight she had recruited was even level 121. Yet Versailles was only 112? Versailles hadn't even reached the level required to challenge the Tier 4 promotion quest. He was also a much lower level than mainstream personal guards. It's almost time. The Lost Town's transfer should be complete by now. Gather the main force members immediately, as well as all of the potential newcomers and core members who have signed our confidentiality contract. From now on, the Lost Town will be our developmental headquarters, Surfeng said as he glanced at the time. Is that all, Guild Leader? What about the Lost Town's security? Aqua Rose asked worriedly. The Demon Wolf Mountain Range was a far more dangerous place than Cold Spring Forest, so defending a stronghold there would be a much greater challenge. Moreover, the Lost Town wasn't a basic city, only a basic town. Yet, Surfeng only wanted to station the guild's contracted recruits and core members. Even with the guild's main force, the town would only have around 5,000 players. It was far more than what they had stationed in the Lost Town before this, but the town had only occupied a pre-level 100 neutral map. The small number of high-level NPCs and players had been more than enough to deal with the occasional monster tide. However, they wouldn't have a level advantage in the Demon Wolf Mountain Range. Normally, security might have been a problem with so few members, but we have time now. Surfeng consoled his companion as he gestured to Versailles. With him there, we won't have to worry about security. But, he's only level 112 and a secret silver guard, Aqua Rose argued. Relax. He'll be more than enough, Surfeng said, not bothering to explain. Definitively, he continued, just relay the message. All right then. I'll go notify them. Aqua Rose despondently agreed, leaving to notify the guild members Surfeng had requested. Since he was so confident, insisting would be inappropriate. Before half an hour had passed, all of Zero Wing's contracted recruits and core members used the guild transfer scroll Surfeng had provided and arrived in the Lost Town, which had transformed into a wintry wonderland. Chapter 2592 Natural Training Ground. As Zero Wing's members teleported to the Lost Town's residence, the residence's plaza quickly became crowded. What is this place? Why do I feel like a foreign energy is trying to invade my body? My senses feel so dull, and I'm suddenly starving. Didn't the higher-ups say they were bringing us to a sacred training and leveling ground? What's going on here? My friends were still jealous that I got chosen to join the guild's special training. And they didn't, but why does this place feel lesser than Stone Forest City? Upon their arrival to the Lost Town, Zero Wing's new recruits and core members, all of whom had high potential, were curious about the situation, falling into heated discussions. The recruits were especially confused. They knew nothing about the Lost Town, and now they had been thrown into such a harsh environment. They couldn't bring themselves to believe this was a sacred training ground. Just surviving in this town long-term would be a problem. The situation began to worry Aqua Rosen. The town's new location was nothing like what she had imagined. Even Tier 3 players like herself would struggle to survive here, much less the guild's latest trainees, who hadn't yet reached Tier 3. Needless to say, training and fighting the random monster tides would be nearly impossible. Players would be fortunate to exhibit their normal combat standards in such a severe area, much less improve their combat standards. During her previous visit to the Demon Wolf Mountain Range, she had stayed in the neutral map's outer region, where the environment hadn't been particularly harsh, but now that she stood in the inner region, she felt sluggish and her senses had considerably dulled. The constant hunger assaulting her mind and body was also quite uncomfortable. Most importantly, the mana here felt like an icy hell. Violent, ice-type mana filled the area, and Aqua Rose could sense scant amounts of other elements. Manipulating mana in this zone would be almost impossible. When players couldn't manipulate mana, how were they supposed to improve? Guild leader, you don't intend these Tier 2 members to remain here for their training, do you? Blue Frost anxiously asked Shifeng. Blue Frost recognized the area as the Demon Wolf Mountain Range's inner region, and knew that the lowest leveled monster was level 120. This would be an amazing area to level and train for players of his tier and level, but Zero Wing's new recruits and Tier 2 members would only waste their time here. These members were Zero Wing's future. Sending them to such a place to waste their time would cost the guild. Remain here for their training? Shaking his head, Shifeng said, "Such a wonderful thing isn't possible." Shifeng's reply confused Blue Frost. He couldn't understand what was so wonderful about this frozen hellscape. Shifeng didn't explain his statement, however. Instead, he met with the Adventurers Association's NPCs to complete the handover procedures. Once complete, the NPCs promptly left the Lost Town, making the already desolate town even more lonely. At that point, the sound of a system announcement rang in everyone's ears. Lost Town Region System Announcement. The town's new location is subject to a mysterious curse. Wraiths will absorb the excess mana players radiate, transforming into monsters. Please be wary of these monsters' attacks. Shortly after the system announcement ended and before Zero Wings members could digest the information, translucent, humanoid ghosts started to manifest around some of Zero Wings members. These humanoid ghosts appeared to be clones of the players they stood by. They even had the same levels as their human counterparts. The moment their forms were complete, these ghosts attacked the players. Not understanding what was happening, everyone was stunned. Fortunately, they were all Zero Wing experts, and although their levels and tiers weren't up to standard, they commanded expert combat standards. Even the weakest player there could reach the trial tower's 5th floor. They had no trouble responding to the ghosts' attacks appropriately. Meanwhile, the players who hadn't been attacked joined the fray, targeting the ghosts near them. After a moment, however, something else surprising occurred. The ghostly clones had the same combat standards as their human counterparts. Moreover, other players' attacks proved utterly ineffective. Your official training begins now. Be careful of the ghosts that will appear beside you. No one other than the player the ghosts copy can do anything to them. If these ghosts kill you, not only will you lose a level, but you won't be able to log in for a day. Shifeng warned as he watched Zero Wings members fight these phantom monsters. The Demon Wolf Mountain Range was no ordinary location. The map's inner region was actually considered a forbidden land. Every forbidden land in God's domain has some mechanic that made survival particularly difficult. The Demon Wolf Mountain Range's inner region had this curse. Shifeng neither knew exactly what this curse was, nor did he know who was responsible for it, but he knew that an endless stream of ghosts would appear to attack and harass any player resting within a town or city established in this area, preventing anyone from remaining in the region long-term. Zero Wing's many members gasped when they heard Shifeng's warning. How was this training? This was simply an execution. They had now fought these ghosts, so they knew the spirits had the same combat standards as the players they cloned. Unlike players, however, the ghosts weren't affected by the harsh environment. Hence, the monsters commanded their players' peak combat power. In other words, the ghosts were stronger than the cloned players. To make matters worse, they would lose a full level and be banned from the game for a full day if they died. Just how were they supposed to catch up with mainstream experts in this situation? While many of his guildmates complained to themselves, Blue Frost, who was engaged in a bitter battle with his ghost, realized something, and excitement flashed in his eyes. Players were at a disadvantage against these ghosts, and they couldn't even manipulate the ambient mana due to its violent, biased nature. The only option they had left was to find a way to manipulate and use the mana within them to defeat the phantom clones. Since these ghosts mimicked both the player's behavior and combat standards, players could also predict their opponent's moves in certain situations. With this thought in mind, Blue Frost found his ghost counterpart much easier to fight. He also discovered many of his own flaws, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Unfortunately, these fights wouldn't benefit Tier 2 players as much as it did Tier 3 players like himself. However, Tier 2 players could still use their skills and spells in this harsh environment, where Tier 3 players struggled. As long as Tier 2 players steadily trained their combat standards and skill and spell completion rates, they were more than capable of defeating their ghosts. Not only weren't these ghosts the problem they had all assumed, but they were also the perfect training partners for experts like them. Only this kind of training was a little too risky. It wasn't long before the rest of Zero Wings members realized the same, and many stopped complaining, fully immersing themselves in battle. Guild leader, this place is amazing. It is like a natural training ground. Although using it is costly, everyone's training efficiency will be several times greater than normal. The Tier 3 experts who haven't unlocked their mana body's full potential will likely do so after spending a month here, Aqua Rose said, her eyes glowing brightly as she watched the Zero Wing members before her grow steadily stronger. Zero Wing's main force members had already unlocked a sizable fraction of their mana bodies. If they trained here, they'd complete the task in no more than 10 days. Once they did, the guild would have over 100 Tier 3 experts with 100% of their mana bodies under their command. Just thinking about this elated Aqua Rose. Training here was brutal and dangerous, but compared to its benefits, the cost wasn't overly high. Even if players died, they'd only lose a level in some time. Zero Wing's main force members were already much higher levels than the various superpowers peak experts, so the loss wouldn't be a problem. Moreover, the Lost Town now occupied a level 120 neutral map. Grinding for levels would be easy here, and trading levels for progress in unlocking their mana bodies was certainly a worthwhile exchange for Zero Wing. While Zero Wing's members worked hard to improve, Surfeng made his way to the Extraordinary Tower. He didn't pay everyone's battles much mind. The mysterious curse was only an additional benefit for relocating the Lost Town to the Demon Wolf Mountain range. The Extraordinary Tower was still the town's most valuable aspect. The Extraordinary Tower had always been the best location for players to grasp the realm of truth's principles. Training in this tower could shuttle players from the truth realm all the way to the transcendental realm. However, Surfeng had only been able to unlock the tower's second floor, which offered guidance for reaching the Ascension realm, due to a lack of magic crystals. As a result, he hadn't gained any guidance or clues about progressing to the next realm. Now, however, Zero Wing's magic crystal income had skyrocketed due to Stone Forest City's popularity and the Dark World's teleportation gate. After the past few days, the two sources had provided more than 300,000 magic crystals, utterly surpassing Surfeng's expectations. And this now allowed Surfeng to unlock the Extraordinary Tower's third floor. Once he reached the tower, Surfeng called up the tower's interface and unlocked the third floor. As he did, he heard the sound of a system notification. System. The Extraordinary Tower's first 2 floors have already been unlocked. Do you wish to pay 1 million magic crystals to unlock the third floor? Unlock it. Chapter 2593. Extraordinary Tower's third floor unlocked the instant Surfeng chose to unlock the Extraordinary Tower's third floor. 1 million magic crystals disintegrated inside his bag, transforming into a stream of mana that flowed into the tower itself. As the torrent of mana flowed into the Extraordinary Tower, the carved divine runes on the inner walls lit up and repaired themselves. While the divine runes became more complete, the tower's exterior changed significantly. With the extraordinary tower in the center, the violent mana that filled the lost town began to obey. The mana around the tower became denser, and the tower itself released an old, sacred aura that spread throughout the town, instilling anyone it touched with serenity. What an amazing aura! My hungers even disappeared. That's not all. My mind feels much clearer, and my stamina and concentration have begun to recover as well. I feel like I can fight these ghosts for an entire day without rest. As the sacred aura filled the town, Zero Wing's fighting members rejoiced. They had been at an absolute disadvantage against their ghost counterparts, and they had known death was only a matter of time. The foreign energy was corroding their bodies too quickly. However, the situation had changed. Although their surroundings still lacked any elemental mana other than ice, this sacred aura had cleansed the area of foreign energy. As a result, their minds had cleared during their fight, which would prolong their survival. Meanwhile, every ghost had spawned with a mana life buff, which indicated their remaining lifespan and only had a 6-hour duration. If they could last against these phantoms for more than 6 hours, the ghosts would automatically disappear, even if they couldn't defeat them. In addition, Surpassing had informed them that these ghosts only appeared for each player once a day. If they held on for the full 6 hours, they could spend the rest of their day resting easy in the lost town. Of course, players who wanted to dedicate themselves to growing stronger, especially those with high combat standards, wouldn't be satisfied with 6 hours of training. As a result, these players cherished their 6-hour combat session even more than the rest. Moreover, ghosts wouldn't appear for everyone. At the end of the day, these ghosts' appearances were the result of a curse. The stronger a player was, the less effective the curse would be. Ghosts might not even appear for the stronger players, and would almost never appear for players who had already unlocked their mana body's full potential. While everyone was surprised and elated about the new changes to the lost town, the extraordinary tower's sacred aura had finally filled the town. At the same time, a translucent barrier formed around the lost town, isolating it completely. This barrier also calmed the violent ice-type mana in the town, creating a stable mana environment. The mana wasn't very dense, but it was enough to clear the players' minds of unhelpful thoughts. What did the guild leader do? Aqua Rose was shocked when she sensed the changes. She had felt this strange sensation before. To be precise, she had experimented with it during her travels within the Starlight Fortress's Legacy Gate. The only difference was the town's much lower mana density, which resulted in a much smaller boost to her mental capacity. Overall, the Lost Town's training efficiency was barely 1/3 of the Legacy Gate's. Even so, that was astounding. The Lost Town could accommodate far more players than the Legacy Gate, and while it wouldn't be quite as helpful, it was an ideal training ground for Tier 3 players as they tried to unlock their mana bodies. Moreover, the magic barrier substantially increased the town's defenses. With the barrier in place, defeating the monster tides would be far easier. While Aqua Rose and Zero Wing's other members fortunate enough to enter the Legacy Gate were shocked over the Lost Town's transformation, something else within the Extraordinary Tower had shocked Surpassing. This is the result of unlocking the Extraordinary Tower's 3rd floor? He was at a loss as he sensed the ancient aura filling the hall. Normally, only in ancient fortresses could contain all 7 mana elements, yet the Extraordinary Tower brimmed with all of them. Moreover, the mana here was even denser than in the Starlight Fortress. If Tier 3 players trained here, breaking past the 100% threshold would no longer be just a dream, not to mention fully unlocking their mana bodies. He had been worried about crossing that threshold himself, but the tower's new environment had just increased his chances by 10%. If his chances had only increased by 10%, others would have an even greater boost. If players who hadn't yet unlocked their mana body's full potential trained in the Extraordinary Tower, they could definitely accomplish the task in a short time. In fact, their training efficiency here might be twice as high as it was against the humanoid ghosts. Fighting in an area with all 7 mana elements would yield completely different results than fighting in an area with almost none of them. Players would have a much easier time recognizing and controlling the flow of mana in the former. Unfortunately, while this environment was idyllic, there was a limit to the number of players who could take advantage of it. This mana was contained in the Extraordinary Tower's training grounds. The first floor could only accommodate 100 people at a time, while 50 could fit on the second floor, and only 10 would fit on the third. In total, only 160 people could use the extraordinary tower at the same time. That was only under ideal circumstances. In reality, far fewer players could train in the extraordinary tower at a time. If players wanted to use the second or third floors, they'd have to clear the previous floors first. Surpassing didn't give the matter much thought before he instructed Zero Wing's main force members to train in the tower during their free time, and to ignore level grinding and raiding monster dens. Unlocking their mana bodies was far more important than raiding monster dens and level grinding. Furthermore, they had unlocked a considerable percentage of their mana bodies after consuming the exotic legacy potions they had obtained from Poison City. Normally, unlocking their mana bodies would require at most 2 full weeks, but with the tower's third floor unlocked, they could accomplish the feat in even less time. Once all of Zero Wing's main force members unlocked their mana bodies' full potential, the team's grinding efficiency would improve. Securing the Demon Wolf Den that housed the medium teleportation point would also become easier. With his guildmates desperately training, Surpassing made his way to the tower's second floor to begin his ascent. He had reached his limit during his last visit to the extraordinary tower's second floor, unable to improve further regardless of how hard he had tried. Even after creating Sword's transmigration, he hadn't been able to reach the top of the second floor's staircase and had been thrown after reaching the 30th step. Now, however, he had fully unlocked his mana body and gained a newfound understanding of mana. He had even learned a mana technique, and he was ready to challenge the second floor again to push himself through that final barrier. Neither his Tier 4 promotion quest nor the Divine Dragon's trial would be easy to complete. If he failed, he would suffer unimaginable consequences. Fortunately, both trials focused on testing players' individual strength. Advancing through the realms of truth would undoubtedly provide immense help in both upcoming trials. This was why he had decided to activate the Extraordinary Tower's third floor now. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World. EU controlling his emotions, Surpassing climbed the first step on the second floor's staircase. 2 silver-armored swordsmen then appeared, charging at him with the intent to kill. As Surpassing made his way to the Extraordinary Tower's third floor, a group of level 110 experts arrived before Stone Forest City's gates, causing a commotion at the city's main entrance. So this is Zero Wing's Stone Forest City? An elegant, middle-aged man amidst the group commented as he gazed at the magnificent city before him. With a surprised tone he continued, "It is truly extraordinary. With such dense mana and natural terrain advantage, wonder should have grown much stronger here. Don't forget our orders, Elder Hermit. We are not here to sightsee," a bald, middle-aged man in black robes scolded, rolling his eyes. "No matter how much stronger she's grown, wonder must return with us. The time for her willful rebellion has come to an end." "I know. Isn't that why I tagged along in the first place?" Hermit replied. Instead of getting upset at the bald man's comment, he breathed a deep sigh as he led his team into Stone Forest City. Chapter 2592 Natural Training Ground. As Zero Wing's members teleported to the Lost Town's residence, the residence's plaza quickly became crowded. "What is this place? Why do I feel like a foreign energy is trying to invade my body? My senses feel so dull, and I'm suddenly starving. Didn't the higher-ups say they were bringing us to a sacred training and leveling ground? What's going on here? My friends were still jealous that I got chosen to join the guild's special training, and they didn't, but why does this place feel lesser than Stone Forest City?" Upon their arrival to the Lost Town, Zero Wing's new recruits and core members, all of whom had high potential, were curious about the situation, falling into heated discussions. The recruits were especially confused. They knew nothing about the Lost Town, and now they had been thrown into such a harsh environment. They couldn't bring themselves to believe this was a sacred training ground. Just surviving in this town long-term would be a problem. The situation began to worry Aqua Rosen. The town's new location was nothing like what she had imagined. Even Tier 3 players like herself would struggle to survive here, much less the guild's latest trainees, who hadn't yet reached Tier 3. Needless to say, training and fighting the random monster tides would be nearly impossible. Players would be fortunate to exhibit their normal combat standards in such a severe area, much less improve their combat standards. During her previous visit to the Demon Wolf mountain range, She had stayed in the neutral map's outer region, where the environment hadn't been particularly harsh, but now that she stood in the inner region, she felt sluggish and her senses had considerably dulled. The constant hunger assaulting her mind and body was also quite uncomfortable. Most importantly, the mana here felt like an icy hell. Violent, ice-type mana filled the area, and Aqua Rose could sense scant amounts of other elements. Manipulating mana in this zone would be almost impossible. When players couldn't manipulate mana, how were they supposed to improve? Guild leader, you don't intend these Tier 2 members to remain here for their training, do you? Blue Frost anxiously asked Shifeng. Blue Frost recognized the area as the Demon Wolf Mountain Range's inner region, and knew that the lowest-leveled monster was level 120. This would be an amazing area to level and train for players of his tier and level, but Zero Wing's new recruits and Tier 2 members would only waste their time here. These members were Zero Wing's future. Sending them to such a place to waste their time would cost the guild. Remain here for their training? Shaking his head, Shifeng said. Such a wonderful thing isn't possible. Shifeng's reply confused Blue Frost. He couldn't understand what was so wonderful about this frozen hellscape. Shifeng didn't explain his statement, however. Instead, he met with the Adventurers Association's NPCs to complete the handover procedures. Once complete, the NPCs promptly left the lost town, making the already desolate town even more lonely. At that point, the sound of a system announcement rang in everyone's ears. Lost Town Region System Announcement. The town's new location is subject to a mysterious curse. Wraiths will absorb the excess mana players radiate, transforming into monsters. Please be wary of these monsters' attacks. Shortly after the system announcement ended and before Zero Wings members could digest the information, translucent, humanoid ghosts started to manifest around some of Zero Wings members. These humanoid ghosts appeared to be clones of the players they stood by. They even had the same levels as their human counterparts. The moment their forms were complete, these ghosts attacked the players. Not understanding what was happening, everyone was stunned. Fortunately, they were all Zero Wing experts, and although their levels and tiers weren't up to standard, they commanded expert combat standards. Even the weakest player there could reach the trial tower's 5th floor. They had no trouble responding to the ghosts' attacks appropriately. Meanwhile, the players who hadn't been attacked joined the fray, targeting the ghosts near them. After a moment, however, something else surprising occurred. The ghostly clones had the same combat standards as their human counterparts. Moreover, other players' attacks proved utterly ineffective. Your official training begins now. Be careful of the ghosts that will appear beside you. No one other than the player the ghosts copy can do anything to them. If these ghosts kill you, not only will you lose a level, but you won't be able to log in for a day. Shifeng warned as he watched Zero Wings members fight these phantom monsters. The Demon Wolf Mountain Range was no ordinary location. The map's inner region was actually considered a forbidden land. Every forbidden land in God's domain has some mechanic that made survival particularly difficult. The Demon Wolf Mountain Range's inner region had this curse. Shifeng neither knew exactly what this curse was, nor did he know who was responsible for it, but he knew that an endless stream of ghosts would appear to attack and harass any player resting within a town or city established in this area, preventing anyone from remaining in the region long-term. Zero Wing's many members gasped when they heard Shifeng's warning. How was this training? This was simply an execution. They had now fought these ghosts, so they knew the spirits had the same combat standards as the players they cloned. Unlike players, however, the ghosts weren't affected by the harsh environment. Hence, the monsters commanded their players' peak combat power. In other words, the ghosts were stronger than the cloned players. To make matters worse, they would lose a full level and be banned from the game for a full day if they died. Just how were they supposed to catch up with mainstream experts in this situation? While many of his guildmates complained to themselves, Blue Frost, who was engaged in a bitter battle with his ghost, realized something and excitement flashed in his eyes. Players were at a disadvantage against these ghosts, and they couldn't even manipulate the ambient mana due to its violent, biased nature. The only option they had left was to find a way to manipulate and use the mana within them to defeat the phantom clones. Since these ghosts mimicked both the player's behavior and combat standards, players could also predict their opponent's moves in certain situations. With this thought in mind, Blue Frost found his ghost counterpart much easier to fight. He also discovered many of his own flaws, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Unfortunately, these fights wouldn't benefit Tier 2 players as much as it did Tier 3 players like himself. However, Tier 2 players could still use their skills and spells in this harsh environment, where Tier 3 players struggled. As long as Tier 2 players steadily trained their combat standards and skill and spell completion rates, they were more than capable of defeating their ghosts. Not only weren't these ghosts the problem they had all assumed, but they were also the perfect training partners for experts like them. Only this kind of training was a little too risky. It wasn't long before the rest of Zero Wings members realized the same, and many stopped complaining, fully immersing themselves in battle. Guild leader. This place is amazing. It is like a natural training ground. Although using it is costly, everyone's training efficiency will be several times greater than normal. The Tier 3 experts who haven't unlocked their mana body's full potential will likely do so after spending a month here, Aqua Rose said, her eyes glowing brightly as she watched the Zero Wing members before her grow steadily stronger. Zero Wing's main force members had already unlocked a sizable fraction of their mana bodies. If they trained here, they'd complete the task in no more than 10 days. Once they did, the guild would have over 100 Tier 3 experts with 100% of their mana bodies under their command. Just thinking about this elated Aqua Rose. Training here was brutal and dangerous, but compared to its benefits, the cost wasn't overly high. Even if players died, they'd only lose a level in some time. Zero Wing's main force members were already much higher levels than the various superpowers peak experts, so the loss wouldn't be a problem. Moreover, the Lost Town now occupied a level 120 neutral map. Grinding for levels would be easy here, and trading levels for progress in unlocking their mana bodies was certainly a worthwhile exchange for Zero Wing. While Zero Wing's members worked hard to improve, Surfeng made his way to the Extraordinary Tower. He didn't pay everyone's battles much mind. The mysterious curse was only an additional benefit for relocating the Lost Town to the Demon Wolf Mountain range. The Extraordinary Tower was still the town's most valuable aspect. The Extraordinary Tower had always been the best location for players to grasp the realm of truth's principles. Training in this tower could shuttle players from the truth realm all the way to the transcendental realm. However, Surfeng had only been able to unlock the tower's 2nd floor, which offered guidance for reaching the Ascension realm, due to a lack of magic crystals. As a result, he hadn't gained any guidance or clues about progressing to the next realm. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World. Now, however, Zero Wing's magic crystal income had skyrocketed due to Stone Forest City's popularity and the Dark World's teleportation gate. After the past few days, the 2 sources had provided more than 300,000 magic crystals, utterly surpassing Surfeng's expectations. And this now allowed Surfeng to unlock the Extraordinary Tower's 3rd floor. Once he reached the tower, Surfeng called up the tower's interface and unlocked the 3rd floor. As he did, he heard the sound of a system notification. System. The Extraordinary Tower's first 2 floors have already been unlocked. Do you wish to pay 1 million magic crystals to unlock the 3rd floor? Unlock it. Chapter 2593. Extraordinary Tower's 3rd floor unlocked. The instant Surfeng chose to unlock the Extraordinary Tower's 3rd floor, 1 million magic crystals disintegrated inside his bag, transforming into a stream of mana that flowed into the tower itself. As the torrent of mana flowed into the Extraordinary Tower, the carved divine runes on the inner walls lit up and repaired themselves. While the divine runes became more complete, the tower's exterior changed significantly. With the Extraordinary Tower in the center, the violent mana that filled the Lost Town began to obey. The mana around the tower became denser, and the tower itself released an old, sacred aura that spread throughout the town, instilling anyone it touched with serenity. What an amazing aura! My hungers even disappeared. That's not all. My mind feels much clearer, and my stamina and concentration have begun to recover as well. I feel like I can fight these ghosts for an entire day without rest. As the sacred aura filled the town, Zero Wing's fighting members rejoiced. They had been at an absolute disadvantage against their ghost counterparts, and they had known death was only a matter of time. The foreign energy was corroding their bodies too quickly. However, the situation had changed. Although their surroundings still lacked any elemental mana other than ice, this sacred aura had cleansed the area of foreign energy. As a result, their minds had cleared during their fight, which would prolong their survival. Meanwhile, every ghost had spawned with a mana life buff, which indicated their remaining lifespan and only had a 6-hour duration. If they could last against these phantoms for more than 6 hours, the ghosts would automatically disappear, even if they couldn't defeat them. In addition, Surpassing had informed them that these ghosts only appeared for each player once a day. If they held on for the full 6 hours, they could spend the rest of their day resting easy in the Lost Town. Of course, players who wanted to dedicate themselves to growing stronger, especially those with high combat standards, wouldn't be satisfied with 6 hours of training. As a result, these players cherished their 6-hour combat session even more than the rest. Moreover, ghosts wouldn't appear for everyone. At the end of the day, these ghosts' appearances were the result of a curse. The stronger a player was, the less effective the curse would be. Ghosts might not even appear for the stronger players, and would almost never appear for players who had already unlocked their mana body's full potential. While everyone was surprised and elated about the new changes to the Lost Town, the Extraordinary Tower's sacred aura had finally filled the town. At the same time, a translucent barrier formed around the Lost Town, isolating it completely. This barrier also calmed the violent ice-type mana in the town, creating a stable mana environment. The mana wasn't very dense, but it was enough to clear the players' minds of unhelpful thoughts. What did the guild leader do? Aqua Rose was shocked when she sensed the changes. She had felt this strange sensation before. To be precise, she had experimented with it during her travels within the Starlight Fortress's Legacy Gate. The only difference was the town's much lower mana density, which resulted in a much smaller boost to her mental capacity. Overall, the Lost Town's training efficiency was barely 1/3 of the Legacy Gates. Even so, that was astounding. The Lost Town could accommodate far more players than the Legacy Gate, and while it wouldn't be quite as helpful, it was an ideal training ground for Tier 3 players as they tried to unlock their mana bodies. Moreover, the magic barrier substantially increased the town's defenses. With the barrier in place, defeating the monster tides would be far easier. While Aqua Rose and Zero Wing's other members fortunate enough to enter the Legacy Gate were shocked over the Lost Town's transformation, something else within the Extraordinary Tower had shocked Surpassing. This is the result of unlocking the Extraordinary Tower's 3rd floor? He was at a loss as he sensed the ancient aura filling the hall. Normally, only in ancient fortresses could contain all 7 mana elements, yet the Extraordinary Tower brimmed with all of them. Moreover, the mana here was even denser than in the Starlight Fortress. If Tier 3 players trained here, breaking past the 100% threshold would no longer be just a dream, not to mention fully unlocking their mana bodies. He had been worried about crossing that threshold himself, but the tower's new environment had just increased his chances by 10%. If his chances had only increased by 10%, others would have an even greater boost. If players who hadn't yet unlocked their mana body's full potential trained in the Extraordinary Tower, they could definitely accomplish the task in a short time. In fact, their training efficiency here might be twice as high as it was against the humanoid ghosts. Fighting in an area with all 7 mana elements would yield completely different results than fighting in an area with almost none of them. Players would have a much easier time recognizing and controlling the flow of mana in the former. Unfortunately, while this environment was idyllic, there was a limit to the number of players who could take advantage of it. This mana was contained in the Extraordinary Tower's training grounds. The first floor could only accommodate 100 people at a time, while 50 could fit on the second floor, and only 10 would fit on the third. In total, only 160 people could use the Extraordinary Tower at the same time. That was only under ideal circumstances. In reality, far fewer players could train in the Extraordinary Tower at a time. If players wanted to use the second or third floors, they'd have to clear the previous floors first. Surpassing didn't give the matter much thought before he instructed Zero Wing's main force members to train in the tower during their free time, and to ignore level grinding and raiding monster dens. Unlocking their mana bodies was far more important than raiding monster dens and level grinding. Furthermore, they had unlocked a considerable percentage of their mana bodies after consuming the exotic legacy potions they had obtained from Poison City. Normally, unlocking their mana bodies would require at most 2 full weeks, But with the tower's third floor unlocked, they could accomplish the feat in even less time. Once all of Zero Wing's main force members unlocked their mana body's full potential, the team's grinding efficiency would improve. Securing the Demon Wolf Den that housed the medium teleportation point would also become easier. With his guildmates desperately training, Surfeng made his way to the tower's second floor to begin his ascent. He had reached his limit during his last visit to the extraordinary tower's second floor, unable to improve further regardless of how hard he had tried. Even after creating Sword's transmigration, he hadn't been able to reach the top of the second floor's staircase and had been thrown after reaching the 30th step. Now, however, he had fully unlocked his mana body and gained a newfound understanding of mana. He had even learned a mana technique, and he was ready to challenge the second floor again to push himself through that final barrier. Neither his Tier 4 promotion quest nor the Divine Dragon's trial would be easy to complete. If he failed, he would suffer unimaginable consequences. Fortunately, both trials focused on testing players' individual strength. Advancing through the realms of truth would undoubtedly provide immense help in both upcoming trials. This was why he had decided to activate the Extraordinary Tower's third floor now. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World. EU controlling his emotions, Surfeng climbed the first step on the second floor's staircase. Two silver-armored swordsmen then appeared, charging at him with the intent to kill. As Surfeng made his way to the Extraordinary Tower's third floor, a group of level 110 experts arrived before Stone Forest City's gates, causing a commotion at the city's main entrance. So this is Zero Wing's Stone Forest City? An elegant, middle-aged man amidst the group commented as he gazed at the magnificent city before him. With a surprised tone he continued, "It is truly extraordinary. With such dense mana and natural terrain advantage, wonder should have grown much stronger here. Don't forget our orders, Elder Hermit. We are not here to sightsee," a bald, middle-aged man in black robes scolded, rolling his eyes. "No matter how much stronger she's grown, wonder must return with us. The time for her willful rebellion has come to an end." "I know. Isn't that why I tagged along in the first place?" Hermit replied. Instead of getting upset at the bald man's comment, he breathed a deep sigh as he led his team into Stone Forest City. Chapter 2594 Half-Step Grandmaster Stone Forest City, Candlelight Trading Firm. Following the NPC, Hermit and the bald man arrived at one of the basic meditation rooms on the trading firm's top floor. They were greeted by the sight of a woman in luxurious dark blue robes and enveloped in a faint layer of mana. The woman was steadfastly focused on brewing a potion, her every action smooth and dexterous. A short moment later, the woman lifted her hand, holding a potion that radiated dense mana. "She can brew the master-ranked advanced magic resistance potion so easily? She must not be far from becoming a Grandmaster alchemist." The scene had astonished Hermit and his companion. Master-ranked magic resistance potions were quite rare and costly on the market. They could, after all, enable Tier 3 players to roam level 100+ maps with harsh environments. However, master-ranked advanced magic resistance potions were even stronger. Not only could they help Tier 2 players survive in the severe environments in level 100+ maps, but the potion's effects would also last 24 full hours. Level 100+ maps had abundant resources, particularly those level 110 and above, but their environments were severe and dangerous. Only Tier 3 players could survive in these maps without aid. Unfortunately, the various powers had too few Tier 3 experts at this stage of the game, and they had to rely on their Tier 2 members to gather resources for their development. Hence, the demand for master-ranked advanced magic resistance potions was incredibly high. However, crafting master-ranked advanced magic resistance potions wasn't easy. Even a master alchemist wouldn't have more than a 30% success rate, and the potions took a long time to brew. Including the current rarity of master alchemists, there wasn't enough supply of these potions to meet demand. Silent Wonder, on the other hand, could effortlessly brew these potions. Moreover, she had completed her last potion with astounding speed. She was efficient enough to take on the work of 3 or 4 master alchemists. With those skills, she was likely on the brink of becoming a Grandmaster alchemist. Rather than Silent Wonder's alchemy standards, Hermit and the bald man were far more surprised to see that she had reached level 111. She was actually one level higher than they were. It seems the rumors calling Stone Forest City a sacred leveling ground were true. After all, Hermit muttered, staring at the level displayed above Silent Wonder's head in shock. Silent Wonder wasn't a pure combat player. Although players could gain EXP through their subclasses, they didn't earn nearly as much as combat players, who relentlessly grinded monsters in the fields. Despite that, Silent Wonder had still surpassed both of them. This fact alone made it clear how extraordinary a Guild Zero Wing was. Fifth Uncle, Elder Hermit. Isn't there still some time before the family competition begins? What's with the sudden visit? Silent Wonder asked, curious to see the two people enter the room. The Azure Chamber of Commerce held a competition between its main shareholder families, once a year on the same date. The next competition would begin in 6 days. Even if her family intended to escort her to the Western continent, she had expected they'd only show up the day before. She had no clue why they'd show up so early without prior notice. Moreover, Hermit, the man responsible for Demon Stone Town's safety, had come to see her. These two didn't seem like they were simply here to escort her. There is indeed still some time before the competition, but that's not the only reason we've come, the middle-aged man informed her. I'm sure you are aware that the Zeus Corporation's support is a large part of the reason Azure enjoys its current success. Has something happened with the Zeus Corporation? Silent Wonder asked. The Zeus Corporation was one of the top 10 corporations in the world. The corporation's support was also a large part of the reason that the Azure Chamber of Commerce had grown over the years and achieved its current status in God's domain. Moreover, the Zeus Corporation had a considerable portion of the Super Guild, Violet Sword shares. Violet Sword was relatively ancient, with over a century of history. It was one of the oldest super guilds to rise in the virtual gaming world. Its long history was only second to the 5 great super guilds, and the guild's relationship with the Zeus Corporation was why Azure had developed so smoothly on the Western continent. That's right. Violet Sword urgently needs lifestyle masters, so Zeus has decided that Azure will offer support. Since you are the greatest talent among our family's younger generation, you cannot avoid developing in Violet Sword. We have come to escort you to the guild's headquarters, the bald, middle-aged man explained, nodding. Develop in Violet Sword? But Silent Wonder was stunned. I know you wish to remain in Zero Wing, seeing as it has helped you so much. Helplessly, the bald man continued, however, you know how much the Zeus Corporation has helped Azure. Zeus's help is the very reason that Azure maintains its hold on a grade 1 or vein. You are one of the lifestyle masters the corporation handpicked. If you don't go, not only will our family lose Zeus's support, but we might also lose our hold on that vein, which Azure relies on to survive. The Zeus Corporation was rich and powerful. It also commanded considerable strength and influence in the West. One word from the corporation is all it would take to throw the Azure Chamber of Commerce to the wolves. Can you give me some time to think, Fifth Uncle? Silent Wonder hesitantly requested. We might have allowed you to do as you wish until now, but this concerns the family's future. We cannot allow you to continue this willful behavior anymore. The bald man snapped. Once the family competition has ended, you will travel to Violet Sword to continue your development. Take this time to prepare. You don't need to worry about your situation with Zero Wing. We will help you settle it. With that, the bald man and Hermit turned and left the room, leaving Silent Wonder stupefied. After leaving the Candlelight trading firm, the two men headed straight for Zero Wing's residence. Don't you think you're being a little too impatient, Wushang? We should have given Wonder some time to accept the situation, Hermit commented, sending a sidelong glance at his companion. Accept it? Do you assume I don't want to? The bald man, Long Wushang, solemnly replied, offering a bitter smile. The Zeus Corporation has given us an ultimatum. In fact, the corporation has already delivered the other family's younger members to train with Violet Sword as a means to harass the Long family. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World. Even so, I'm afraid Wonder will not go obediently, Hermit said. With as stubborn as she is, persuading her will be difficult. That's why we're going to meet with Zero Wing. As long as Zero Wing willingly lets her go, she'll be easier to convince, Long Wushang said. What if Zero Wing refuses? You must realize that the guild is not to be trifled with, Hermit worriedly countered. Isn't that why you're here? Long Wushang replied, rolling his eyes. He shifted his gaze toward the nearby guild residence, sneering as he continued, Zero Wing doesn't have a choice. If Zero Wing refuses to let Wonder go, it will suffer the Zeus Corporation's wrath. Chapter 2595 True Ascension Realm Lost Town. Extraordinary Tower 2nd floor. As Shifeng ascended the staircase to the 3rd floor, more and stronger swordsmen continued to appear. On the first step, he had only faced 2 silver swordsmen. When he reached the 89th step, his opponents were 4 golden swordsmen. Not only had all of these golden swordsmen commanded combat standards nearly on par with the refinement realm, but all 4 had reached the truth realm as well. Combining both aspects, their combat power was far stronger than ordinary refinement realm experts. Moreover, the 4 golden swordsmen's coordination was as seamless as if they shared one mind. There were no gaps in their offense or defense, and they all possessed incredible basic attributes. Even Shifeng struggled to cope with the golden swordsman's assault. If he hadn't had swords transmigration to defend himself, these golden swordsmen would have long since thrown him back down the staircase. I can easily handle these swordsmen one-on-one, but avoiding their coordinated attacks with the physique of a Tier 1 player is impossible. It seems my only option is to force my way through. After 3 minutes of fighting these 4 golden swordsmen, Shifeng realized that continuing this battle was a waste of time. He couldn't find any weaknesses to take advantage of. The only method he could think of to reach the next step was to force his way past these swordsmen. Following which, Shifeng stepped forward and sucked in a deep breath. He then raised the abyssal blade above his head, gathering mana around the weapon. A phantom of a gigantic greatsword immediately appeared above him. Although the extraordinary tower suppressed his physique to that of Tier 1, it did nothing to hamper his mana body. He could easily command his own mana in combat. In retaliation, the 4 golden swordsmen launched a joint attack, aiming for 16 of Shifeng's weak points. Before they had a chance to strike, Shifeng swung down the abyssal blade. Light shadow. Boom! After the phantom greatsword's descent, all 4 golden swordsmen stumbled back several steps, falling out of formation. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Shifeng charged at the nearest opponent. His target reacted quickly. Although the golden swordsman hadn't regained its posture, it used a horizontal slash in an attempt to stop Shifeng's charge. However, Shifeng didn't give the golden swordsman a chance to defend itself as his sacred sword transformed into a streak of light, deflecting the horizontal slash. He then thrust the abyssal blade at the golden swordsman's chest. Pung! Sparks flew as the fragmented legendary weapon collided with the golden swordsman's armor, shoving it back a few more steps before it fell. Finally, Shifeng tore a hole in the 4 golden swordsmen's formation. Now, with his target on the ground, Shifeng used void steps to confuse the 3 remaining golden swordsmen and escape their encirclement. He then leaped onto the 90th step. The moment Shifeng landed on the 90th step, a swordsman in black robes appeared before him. This black swordsman then thrust his weapon at Shifeng. The thrust was surprisingly powerful, and the instant the black swordsman's blade shot forward, it transformed into numerous particles of light that shot toward Shifeng. It was impossible to tell which attack was real and which was fake. An advanced combat technique? Shifeng's expression darkened when he recognized the move as a combat technique. This black swordsman's basic attributes and combat standards were even higher than the golden swordsman Shifeng had just faced. In fact, the black swordsman was on the cusp of reaching the flowing water realm. Combined with its advanced combat technique, Shifeng was no match for this opponent with just a Tier 1 physique. Of course, this disadvantage wasn't enough to make Shifeng give up. Instead, he brandished Killing Ray in response. Swords transmigration. The instant the 2 weapons met, a deafening boom echoed throughout the 2nd floor. The impact was so powerful that Shifeng stumbled back down to the 89th step. He hadn't had time to readjust his posture, and the 4 golden swordsmen he had left behind subsequently threw him back down to the base of the 2nd floor's staircase. The 90th step's black swordsman is amazing. I saw no excess movements, and it perfectly integrated an advanced combat technique. Not even domain realm experts could find any opening to take advantage of, and would be forced to face its attacks head-on. Shifeng wasn't disappointed about returning to square one. Actually, he seemed rather excited. The Black Swordsman had highlighted some of his own flaws. He had reached the realm of Truth's Ascension realm, and his every action resembled a combat technique, but they weren't. His movements lacked the power of combat techniques. They only possessed the deception of true combat techniques. To put it simply, he hadn't made much progress in the Ascension realm, and his foundations were unsteady. He had only grasped the vague concept of the realm, lacking its crucial concepts. The Black Swordsman, on the other hand, stood firmly in the Ascension realm. Because of this, Surfeng couldn't yet ascend to the Extraordinary Tower's 3rd floor, despite having reached the Ascension realm. If he could gain even a portion of the Black Swordsman's mastery over the Ascension realm and perfectly integrate basic combat techniques with his every action, his combat power would definitely rise by a large margin. Meanwhile, during the time Surfeng was reflecting on his own flaws, a few other Zero Wing members were sent flying down the 2nd floor staircase as well. I did it! I finally did it! Shadow Sword shouted ecstatically as he looked at the dense mana his body radiated. Turtle Dove, Alluring Summer, and the others who had fallen down the stairs similarly radiated dense mana. They had obviously unlocked their mana body's full potential. Moreover, Blue Frost, Flying Shadow, Stubborn Bone, and a few other Zero Wing members, who had only begun to unlock their mana bodies, revealed excited expressions. They had made significant progress during their climb on the Extraordinary Tower's 2nd floor staircase. Training in the Extraordinary Tower is really this effective? Surfeng looked at the players around him, astonished. While the Extraordinary Tower's mana provided quite a bit of help to players developing their mana control, Surfeng didn't think it'd be such an effective tool in helping them unlock their mana bodies. Learning the rules and how to manipulate mana wasn't an easy task, not to mention adapting those methods to one's mana body. Surfeng estimated that although Shadow Sword and the rest had been close to unlocking all of their mana body's potential, they should have still needed 3 to 5 days to reach 100%. And yet, they had succeeded in less than half a day. If every one of Zero Wing's main force members could make this much progress, every one of them would fully unlock their mana bodies in less than 10 days, becoming true powerhouses in God's domain. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World. Just as Surfeng turned his attention back to the 2nd floor staircase, however, he received a call from Melancholic Smile. Guild leader, Azure's representatives have come to our residence. They wish to speak with you about taking Wonder to develop in the West's Violet Sword. They're hoping we won't hinder her future and just let her go. They visited Wonder before coming here too, but it seems Wonder's reaction wasn't positive, Melancholic Smile reported. Violet Sword, huh? Surfeng could not contain his smile. Azure is certainly crafty. Will you meet with them? Melancholic Smile asked. That won't be necessary. Have Hell Rush send them away. Also, have him convey a message. I'll personally take Wonder to visit Violet Sword after the family competition to have a proper conversation with the Super Guild's people, so they don't need to bother. Surfeng calmly stated. Chapter 2596 Mighty Zero Wing. Times have changed. Stone Forest City, Zero Wing's residence. Long Wushang and Hermit sat by the French window, clearly unhappy, in Zero Wing's large, luxurious reception room. So you're saying that Guild leader Black Flame has no intention of meeting us, Commander Rush? Long Wushang demanded, glaring at Hell Rush, who had just notified them of Surfeng's reply. That's right. He knows what you wish to discuss and requested that I relay a message. Once the family competition is over, he will personally take Silent Wonder to visit Violet Sword, so you don't have to bother. Hell Rush coolly informed the two men, nodding. The message stunned both of them, particularly Long Wushang. Long Wushang had considered many possible outcomes before visiting Zero Wing's residence, and had prepared a variety of arguments to persuade Surfeng to let Silent Wonder go. However, he never considered that Surfeng would simply refuse to meet with them, turning them away. However, what truly surprised the bald man was the fact that Hell Rush had followed Surfeng's instructions, conveying the message personally. The alliance between Netherworld Empire and Zero Wing was no longer a secret among the various superpowers, especially after the battle at the Dark World's Teleportation Gate. That battle had exposed the relationship between the two guilds. Hell Rush, however, was a famous slaughtering god on the Western continent. He even commanded Netherworld Empire's strongest Trump Legion. Even Violet Sword's guild leader would have to take him seriously, yet, he obediently played the role of Shifeng's messenger. Good. Since guild leader Black Flame understands the situation, we won't overstay our welcome. Long Wushang decided after calming himself. He then stood to leave the room with Hermit. After they left Zero Wing's residence, the air around Long Wushang dropped a few degrees, becoming so cold that nearby players shivered. Even the Azure experts that had tagged along shuddered as Long Wushang's frosty aura swept over them. To think that even the famous Hell Rush would obey Black Flame. I hadn't expected Zero Wing to have such a close relationship with Netherworld Empire. Violet Sword might make concessions if they find out about this, Hermit surmised, glancing at the twisted expression his comrade was making. Concessions? Long Wushang laughed. I admit that Zero Wing is clearly close with Netherworld Empire, but after all is said and done, they are only allies. Zero Wing has barely any power in the West, while Violet Sword is a titan. It is obvious who holds the advantage on the Western continent. How much help would Netherworld Empire possibly be willing to offer Zero Wing? Moreover, this matter involves Violet Sword's future and prestige. The guild won't budge just because of Netherworld Empire's interference. Violet Sword aims to join the 5 great super guilds after all. So what if Zero Wing and Netherworld Empire are close allies? And as for Black Flame's plan to negotiate with Violet Sword personally, that's nothing more than fool's talk. Regardless, we have more or less completed our goals here. Will you return now? Hermit asked. Of course I am returning, Long Wushang growled, sneering at Zero Wing's residence. Violet Sword has already warned the Long family. Since Black Flame wants to be stubborn, he can't blame me for passing his message on to Violet Sword. I can't wait to see his confidence vanish. Long Wushang then left Stone Forest City and promptly returned to the Western continent. He planned to inform the rest of his family and Violet Sword of everything that had happened. Shortly after Long Wushang's group left, Silent Wonder received news of Shifeng's reply. You're not really planning to visit Violet Sword, are you, guild leader? Silent Wonder asked as she watched Shifeng's image on the screen before her. Refusing to meet with her fifth uncle might have been fine, but Shifeng was playing with fire by declaring that he'd resolve the matter personally. Zero Wing had become a titan in the east, but its roots were still weak on the western continent. Trying to convince the Zeus Corporation and Violet Sword to abandon their plans would be impossible with the power Zero Wing currently commanded. If this matter weren't handled carefully, Zero Wing could become the Zeus Corporation's enemy, which wouldn't be good news for the guild. I've already committed to it, so naturally, I'll pay Violet Sword a visit, Shifeng declared. And we'll be going in style. Going in style? Silent Wonder could not help but wonder if Shifeng had finally gone mad. They were talking about Violet Sword, and the meeting venue would be in the west. Once the Super Guild learned about today's events, whether or not they reached Violet Sword's headquarters alive would be a problem, not to mention arriving in style. I've heard that Azure's younger generation has been invited to train with Violet Sword. Since that is the case, you should take a break from potion making and focus on training in the Lost Town, Shifeng said, paying Silent Wonder's exasperated expression no mind. We'll show your family and Violet Sword Zero Wing strength. But there are only a few days left before the family competition. I'm afraid it's too late to start training now, Silent Wonder complained. Her trust in Shifeng's abilities, particularly his ability to help players level up, was unwavering. He had proven this with Dark Rhapsody and Deity Society's main force members. However, the upcoming competition wouldn't be in the form of a standard duel between players. Rather, it would be a competition of combat standards and techniques. The Azure Chamber of Commerce considered weapons and equipment to be external strength. The chamber was powerful enough that acquiring the best items was only a matter of time. Hence, Azure didn't need its younger members to rely on items, but their potential. However, one couldn't just improve their combat standards and combat techniques in a short time. They would have to train arduously for long periods. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World. There were only 6 days left until the family competition. Seeking a qualitative transformation within such a short time was simply unrealistic. Moreover, while her combat talent was outstanding among Azure's younger generation, she was nowhere close to a match for the top geniuses that devoted themselves to combat. From what she had learned during the previous competition in Demonstone Town, 2 of the younger generation were already close to the domain realm. 1 individual had already reached the domain realm. In contrast, she had only reached the half-step void realm standard. There was no way she could defeat those geniuses. I know, but beggars can't be choosers. Besides, combat comes in various forms, Shifeng said, realizing Silent Wonder's concerns. In any case, just make your way here. I've already given you access to the Lost Town. You can head to the residence to purchase a transfer scroll. All right, I'll leave immediately, Silent Wonder agreed. Since Shifeng was so confident, she had no choice but to follow his wishes. She had grown massively during her stay with Zero Wing, and she couldn't possibly sully the guild's name. Following which, she left the Candlelight trading firm and made her way to Zero Wing's residence. Chapter 2597 Changes to the Lost Town, Zero Wing's residence. With a flash of light, Silent Wonder arrived in the residence's plaza, looking worried. She was already at the half-step void realm standard, and crossing that barrier soon was entirely possible. A single flash of inspiration is all she would need, especially in her current state. She had already refined her control and pushed her 5 senses to their limits. Making a breakthrough in a single battle was likely. Even if she did, however, she'd, at most, reach the void realm before the family competition began. Her combat standards still wouldn't compare to Azure's combat geniuses. Thus, she struggled to understand why Shifeng suddenly wanted her to train in the Lost Town. This wasn't her first visit to the town, and she was aware of the extraordinary tower's astounding effects. The tower was the very reason she had reached the Truth Realm. Although reaching the Ascension Realm was still a major challenge for her. In fact, reaching the Ascension Realm would be much harder than reaching the Void Realm. This place. Before she had even exited the teleportation array, however, the scenery dumbfounded Silent Wonder. Many of Zero Wing's members fought translucent phantom clones both within and outside of the residence. Their battles were fierce, and some even met their demise. Meanwhile, the Zero Wing members watching from the side seemed envious. However, what truly surprised Silent Wonder was the incredibly low mana density within the Lost Town. She couldn't even sense the flow of mana around her. Conversely, the mana within her felt far more apparent than usual. She also found it easier to manipulate. Moreover, her mind didn't feel clogged in the Lost Town like it did in most mana-deficient environments. She knew exactly how valuable such an environment was. The various powers Tier 3 experts were all busy, desperately hunting for methods to unlock their mana bodies effectively. But perceiving the mana within their bodies was incredibly difficult, let alone manipulate it. The Lost Town's environment made it easier for players to notice their own mana. Naturally, this would be immensely helpful as they worked to unlock their mana body's potential. Even so, Silent Wonder shook her head, returning to her prior thoughts. While the Lost Town's training environment had improved, she still only had 6 days left. Since travel to the Western continent would require a full day, she only had 5 days to train. Even in such a useful environment, trying to unlock her mana body in 5 days was asking for the impossible. When Silent Wonder entered the extraordinary tower, however, she was shocked again. If the Lost Town were a precious training ground, the extraordinary tower was sacred, especially to players trying to increase their mana control. In the tower, she could sense the various mana elements around her, and their movement patterns. It felt like nowhere else in God's domain. What do you think? Do you think you can unlock your mana body's full potential before the family competition now? Shifeng asked as he approached Silent Wonder, smiling when he saw her dazed expression. God's domain offered a variety of ways to increase one's combat power, particularly after players reached Tier 3. The benefits Tier 3 players could gain by improving their mana control were in no way lesser than what they could gain by training their combat standards. I can train here regularly? Silent Wonder asked. This wasn't the first time she had stood in the tower, but it had changed drastically. She found it truly hard to believe that she could spend all her time training in such a sacred place. This environment was astonishing, and it had to come at a high price. Of course, Shifeng confirmed, nodding. He understood Silent Wonder's concerns, and maintaining the extraordinary tower was costly. After activating the extraordinary tower's 3rd floor, He had to spend 20,000 magic crystals per day to keep the third floor's divine runes active. No first-rate guild could afford the expense, but it wouldn't be a problem for Zero Wing. Zero Wing was more than capable of keeping the extraordinary tower running at full power every day. Although I can't make any promises, I should have a high chance of succeeding before the competition, Silent Wonder said after giving the matter some thought. However, are you sure you won't reconsider visiting Violet Sword? Guild leader? Violet Sword is the only one harassing my family on the surface, but it's backed by the Zeus Corporation in this. If the situation isn't handled carefully, our guild might not be allowed on the Western continent anymore. Thanks to her experiments and the ancient potion Shurfeng had given her, she had unlocked over 30% of her mana body. If she focused on training in the Extraordinary Tower, reaching 100% within 5 days was definitely plausible. However, the family competition was a small matter. The Zeus Corporation was the real problem. The West's guilds under the Zeus Corporation's control weren't limited to the Azure Chamber of Commerce and Violet Sword. The corporation had significant shares in a few adventure alliances as well. Even without Violet Sword's strength, Zeus could easily destroy a superpower in the West by simply issuing a bounty. Meanwhile, most of Zero Wing's power lay in Cold Spring Forest. The guild had far less influence outside of the neutral map. There were also quite a few superpowers targeting Zero Wing in the East, not to mention the West. As long as you can do it, it's fine. Don't worry about the Zeus Corporation. If they really want a fight in the end, I don't mind giving them one, Shurfeng said, brimming with confidence in his guild. That's right. If the Zeus Corporation goes too far, we'll prove that Zero Wing isn't to be trifled with, Aqua Rose commented as she approached. That's why you don't have to worry about anything, Wonder. Just focus on unlocking your mana body. You mustn't let those bastards look down on Zero Wing. Silent Wonder was touched by her companion's assurances, although their comments still rendered her speechless. It was enough of a problem that Shurfeng, Zero Wing's guild leader, liked to cause trouble, but now Aqua Rose had picked up the habit. They were talking about one of the top 10 corporations in the entire world, not an opponent to be casually provoked. After Shurfeng gave Silent Wonder some tips to unlock her mana body, he sent Aqua Rose and the other guild members with fully unlocked mana bodies to Zero Wing's residence. He then began to plan the raid on the Demon Wolf Den that housed the medium teleportation gate. Once they secured it, Zero Wing would have another open path to travel between the two main continents. Some time later, 12 players gathered in the residence's spacious plaza. Although there weren't many of them, the collective mana they radiated substantially increased the mana density in the plaza. Guild leader, everyone's here. But I'm afraid that raiding the Demon Wolf Den you mentioned will be difficult with just 12 of us and those personal guards, Aqua Rose said. For the various superpowers, having 12 Tier 3 experts with fully unlocked mana bodies and several dozen Tier 3 personal guards was definitely something to be proud of. God's Domain's powers would even consider the force nearly invincible, but they were about to face the monsters in the Demon Wolf Den Shurfeng targeted. According to Fire Dance's scouting reports, the Demon Wolf Den was home to more than 50,000 monsters, with level 120 lords being the weakest among them. Many of these monsters were even ordinary Grandlords and Grandlords with special bloodlines. Moreover, the den had a particularly severe environment. Even Fire Dance, who had already unlocked her mana body's full potential, had nearly lost her life during her scouting mission. It would agree with you, but don't we still have a Tier 4 personal guard? Shurfeng countered, chuckling as he gestured to the fully armed Versailles behind him. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World. You him? But his level. Aqua Rose only felt concern when she looked at the elderly NPC. Versailles might have an imposing aura, but she couldn't help the feeling that he would be unreliable. While Tier 4 NPCs were very powerful, Versailles was only a secret silver guard. At best, he could hold his ground against an ordinary mythic monster of the same level, but the old man was only level 112, which was even lower than the gathered players. How was he supposed to help them fight level 120 plus mythic monsters or Grandlord ranked mutated demon wolves that rivaled mythic monsters? The rest of the team worried as well. They could now afford to risk their personal guards' lives, but resurrecting a fallen guard would still require the precious water of life. It wouldn't be a laughing matter if all of these personal guards fell in battle. Let's go. You'll understand when the time comes. Shurfeng dismissed the matter, still chuckling. He then led the team to the demon wolf Denver. Meanwhile, on the western continent, Long Wushang had returned to the Azure Chamber of Commerce's residence and relayed Shifeng's message to his family's elders and grand elders. Chapter 2598, Clever Use of Personal Guards? Winter Empire, Winter City, Azure Chamber of Commerce's residence. The Long family's elders and grand elders sat within a luxurious top-floor meeting room, all wearing solemn expressions. If a Tier 3 player entered the room, they'd shudder with fear upon sensing these individuals' chilly auras. What arrogance! Zero Wing is too full of itself. That's right. It is simply responsible for a few achievements in the East, yet it assumes it can stand on the same level as Violet Sword in the West. It's ridiculous. Zero Wing wants to negotiate with Violet Sword? Does the guild think it rules the Western continent? The Long family's elders and grand elders were furious when they heard Long Wushang's report. They might have understood if Zero Wing had only refused to let Silent Wonder go. They all knew that the guild must have invested a lot of resources in the girl's development, and according to Long Wushang's report, she was very close to becoming a Grandmaster alchemist. The importance of a Grandmaster alchemist to a guild went without saying. A single Grandmaster could be responsible for an entire guild's prosperity. The best potions currently on the market were master rank. Obtaining a Grandmaster potion was unthinkable at this stage of the game. Any random Grandmaster potion would be immensely useful, and if a guild could mass-produce such potions, that guild would have an unimaginable advantage. Hence, they would have understood if Zero Wing had tried to fight for her. However, Shifeng hadn't stopped with a refusal to hand Silent Wonder over. He had also declared that Zero Wing would handle the situation, cutting Azure out. It was no more than calling them all incompetent. Since Zero Wing has had made the promise, we'll wash our hands of this matter for now. Once Zero Wing embarrasses itself, it will learn when to take a step back, the keen-witted, middle-aged man in the seat of honor said. But what are Wonder's thoughts on this, old five? Wonder is quite hesitant, big bro. But once Zero Wing embarrasses itself, I doubt she'll sit by and watch her guild and family fall into ruin. I am sure she'll head to Violet Sword to continue her development, Long Wushang surmised after giving the matter some thought. That makes things simple. All we need to do is let things progress. While Zero Wing might be powerful enough to cause waves on the eastern continent, it can do nothing in the west. I realize that we don't wish to tie our family's elites to the Zeus Corporation. The company has chosen to use us as an example to unify the powers under its command. We have no way out of this mess, the clever man said, sighing. The elders and grand elders in the room fell silent. The Long family had become Azure's leading family and enjoyed untold glory on the surface, but in truth, it faced increasing pressure. If the Long family could not continue to grow stronger, only an endless abyss would await them in the end. After all, the Zeus Corporation only supported the Azure Chamber of Commerce. It didn't care who was in charge. As the clever man had said, Zero Wing couldn't accomplish anything on the Western continent. All the Long family needed to do was sit back and watch the show. While the Long family's elders met, Shifeng and his party finally reached the dangerous canyon within the East Demon Wolf mountain range after some time traveling on their flying mounts. The canyon was full of level 120+ demon wolves. Quite a few Grand Lord-ranked mutated crimson demon wolves and three-headed demon wolves rested on the canyon's broken cliffs, and two 20-meter-tall, mythic-ranked three-eyed ice demon wolves rested before a cave entrance, both radiating powerful frosty auras. Ice Demon Wolf. Demonic creature, High Lord. Level 123 HP 63,000, 000/63,000,000 three-headed demon wolf. Demonic creature. Grand Lord. Level 124 HP 540,000/540,000,000. Mutated Crimson Demon Wolf. Demonic creature. Grand Lord. Level 125 HP 1-200,000,000/1-200,000,000 three-eyed ice demon wolf. Demonic creature. Mythic. Level 127 HP 3,100,000, 000/3,100,000,000. When they saw the countless monsters, Zero Wing's members gasped. They had already learned about the incredible number of extremely powerful demon wolves in the canyon from Fire Dance's report. Still, they couldn't help but shudder upon seeing the monsters for themselves. This looked like more of a demon wolf city than a canyon. Even a team with over 5,000 level 120 Tier 3 players would struggle to raid this demon wolf den, much less their team of 12 and several dozen Tier 3 personal guards. With just a glance, they counted more than 300 three-headed demon wolves and mutated crimson demon wolves, and the Grand Lords guarded every entrance into the canyon. 2 three-headed ice demon wolves also stood guard at the mouth of the cave. The ice-type mana the 2 level 126 mythic monsters radiated was no laughing matter, and since all of the team's players had fully unlocked their mana bodies, they could sense how much mana the 2 monsters radiated. They felt as if they were staring at 2 gigantic mountains, not just mythic monsters. Enveloped in such overwhelming ice-type mana, manipulating the ambient mana would be impossible. Although they could use their own mana in combat, their mana would be suppressed, and they wouldn't be able to exhibit their skills and spells' full power. Guild leader, must we really clear out these demon wolves? Kola asked. He had wanted to test his new equipment, but he couldn't help his nervous gulp when he saw the demon wolves here. Even if we rely on the personal guards during the fight, I doubt we'll have an easy time. These demon wolves must be dealt with, but we're not relying on the personal guards. We'll be doing the cleaning ourselves, Surfeng said, shaking his head. We will. His guild leader's plan surprised Kola. Even working with their personal guards, they'd still have a difficult time defeating these demon wolves. Yet Surfeng informed them that they'd take out the monsters on their own. This had to be a joke. MHM. The demon wolves here are special. Not only are there so many and they're strong, but they also have high combat standards. Moreover, this environment's mana suppression is quite powerful, which makes using skills and spells incredibly difficult. Players will have to rely on their combat techniques here. Consider this another training ground. From today on we'll train here, Surfeng said, nodding. Once you run out of stamina and concentration, return to training in the Extraordinary Tower and recuperate. When you've rested, return here. Clearing this area will be our main task for the next few days. He had wanted to activate the medium teleportation point, boosting Zero Wing's development speed, as soon as possible. However, Surfeng's most recent battle on the Extraordinary Tower's second floor had made one thing clear. The realms of truth weren't as simple as he had initially assumed. He had thought he had mastered a considerable portion of the realms of truth's principles, but in reality, he only knew the tip of the iceberg. He had never once truly exhibited the realms of truth's full potential during combat. Meanwhile, Tier 3 was only a transition period for true powerhouses. The difference between their strength and that of ordinary experts would become more prominent as players reached level 120 and began to challenge their Tier 4 promotion quests. While Zero Wing had plenty of expert players, very few qualified to be called peak experts, and even fewer were apex experts that had reached the domain realm. Although powerful weapons, equipment, and bloodlines would be quite helpful during players' Tier 4 promotion quests, their combat standards would be the deciding factor between completing the quest or not. This would be particularly true of players who challenged their Tier 4 promotion quests at a low level. They'd face much higher combat standard requirements than if they waited. Since the Zeus Corporation was taking measures to consolidate its power, it was obvious that the various superpowers and major corporations had realized the significance of Tier 4. As a result, they were pooling their resources to nurture their peak and apex experts in preparation for their Tier 4 promotion quests. In the past, the various superpowers had only realized how important Tier 4 was after a few apex experts had completed their promotion quests. However, due to the butterfly effect Surfeng had caused, the superpowers now focused on training their high-tiered experts, rather than rely on Zerg tactics as they had in his past life. Hence, improving Zero Wing members' combat standards was of the utmost importance. If the various superpowers really were preparing their experts for the Tier 4 promotion quests, Zero Wing would be overpowered if it remained passive. Aside from normal training, life or death battles with monsters was an absolute must if players wanted to grow stronger. Only by risking their lives in battle could players unlock more of their potential. Now that Zero Wing had the Extraordinary Tower and the Demon Wolf Mountain Range's special region in its grasp, he had to take advantage of these benefits. In that case, Guild Leader, why did we bring all of these personal guards? Aqua Rose asked, confused. It had taken a lot of manpower to secure so many powerful personal guards. Yet Surfeng didn't intend to use them in the fight. She didn't understand what he was trying to accomplish. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World. They're here to watch us fight and help during crucial moments, saving our lives, Surfeng seriously explained. His statement left the rest of his team speechless. Was this the right way to use personal guards? These demon wolves were so powerful. Even if they fought alongside their personal guards, victory wasn't guaranteed, so how were these NPCs supposed to protect them? Since there are no more questions, let's begin our training, Surfeng declared, slashing killing ray through the empty air before him and sending a lightning bolt at a group of a dozen or so demon wolves. The attack startled over 1,000 nearby monsters, and the demon wolves turned to glare at Surfeng's group, the rage in their eyes making Cola and the others shiver. Before the team could react, the 1,000 or so monsters charged toward them. Chapter 2599 True Tier 4 Cola, and the others grew nervous as the demon wolves swarmed. Most of the monsters were only High Lord ranked ice demon wolves, but with their high levels, their basic attributes could rival that of level 115 Great Lords. In other words, they had to face more than 1,000 Great Lords of the same level simultaneously, and every one of these monsters had the combat standards to reach the Trial Tower's 3rd floor. Moreover, quite a few three-headed demon wolves ran with this pack. These monsters moved like a powerful tsunami that could wipe out anything in its path. As the demon wolves moved closer, and Zero Wings members prepared for battle, the pack split into two and surrounded the team. Completing the encirclement, the ice demon wolves opened a path for their Grand Lord-ranked brethren, allowing the three-headed demon wolves to move to the front. How intelligent are these monsters? Cola's eyes nearly fell from their sockets. These demon wolves moved more like a well-trained army than a bunch of demonic creatures, and this army had been specifically trained to target players. Before Cola and the others could react, one of the three-headed demon wolves charged forth. Over 100 ice demon wolves followed the Grand Lord, providing cover. Cola immediately responded by charging forward and using Justice Roar on the three-headed demon wolf. Just as the blinding light radiated from Cola, before he could land an attack, however, a playful look flashed in the Grand Lord's eyes, confusing the Guardian Knight. Two ice demon wolves then appeared from behind the Grand Lord, ramming their heads into Cola. Pung! The ice demon wolves bounced off Cola's armor, flying back, and the MT's assault came to a grinding halt. Before Cola could regain his stance, the three-headed demon wolf's paw descended toward him, enveloped in an ink-black glow. Don't you dare think I'm that easy to kill, Cola roared, reacting quickly and raising his shield to block the attack. The instant he raised his shield, however, he was dumbfounded. This time, 3 more ice demon wolves appeared from the Grand Lord's sides. A two-pronged assault. Despite the fact that demonic creatures shouldn't possess much intellect, these demon wolves knew how to work together to launch complicated assaults. Moreover, their coordination was simply perfect. They had executed their strategy with flawless timing. Not even players could pull off such a tactic. It was as if these demon wolves had practiced relentlessly to deal with him specifically. Just as Cola thought all hope was lost, an ice wall rose up around him. Boom! The wall shook violently when the three-headed demon wolf and 3 ice demon wolves collided with it, but it held steady. Stunned, Aqua Rose and the others glanced toward the origin of the ice wall's mana. None of them had been able to react to the demon wolves' attacks in time to save Cola, but someone had cast ice wall around the MT just before the 4 monsters' attack landed. The ice wall was only a tier 2 spell, yet it had even stopped the Grand Lord-ranked 3-headed demon wolf. It was unbelievable. Locating the caster, the team stared at Versailles, the elderly man behind Surfeng. However, to their surprise, there wasn't a magic array around the NPC or the crystalline staff he wielded, yet he had created the ice wall. When players cast spells, they first needed to form the necessary magic array. Even instantaneous spells required arrays to cast, and all magic arrays took time to form. Although instantaneous spells arrays manifested much faster, time was still needed for their completion. Versailles, however, had cast the Tier 2 ice wall without any magic arrays, as if the spell had taken shape with a thought. Moreover, his ice wall was astonishingly powerful. Enraged, the 3-headed demon wolf glared at Versailles. All three of the Grand Lord's heads opened their maws, and a twofold magic array began to form beneath the monster's feet. After a brief pause, the three wolf heads spat a frightening storm, resembling a hurricane, which threatened to devour everyone in the area. No one had any time to dodge the attack. In response, Versailles lifted his free hand and summoned a rock wall, isolating them from the three-headed demon wolf. The powerful storm attack didn't even shake the rock wall. Even after exhausting its energy, the storm only cleaned the wall of loose dirt. Cola and the others were flabbergasted. That attack had undoubtedly been a Tier 3 curse, including the fact that the three-headed demon wolf was a level 124 Grand Lord. The attack rivaled a full-powered hit from a level 120 mythic monster, yet Versailles had effortlessly blocked it. Meanwhile, the Tier 4 NPC summoned stone spikes beneath the other two three-headed demon wolves, who were preparing a long-range ambush, and broke the other Grand Lord's concentration. A Tier 4 NPC is actually this strong? Aqua Rose was utterly baffled as she watched. She had thought Surfong was overestimating Versailles, who was only a level 112 secret silver guard. He might be a Tier 4 NPC, but fighting this formidable demon wolf army should still give him some trouble. But after witnessing Versailles' performance, she understood why Surfong thought so highly of the elderly NPC. Versailles had instantly cast 3 spells to interrupt the 3 Grand Lords' attacks. In other words, he could triple instant cast. Moreover, all 3 of his spells were incredibly powerful despite their low tier. Versailles was on a completely different level than the Tier 4 NPCs she had encountered before. Everyone be more careful. Although we have Versailles protection, it isn't foolproof. These demon wolves are extraordinary. Not only are they incomparably cunning, but they also know how to take advantage of all sorts of opportunities. You need to be vigilant at all times, Surfong warned, chuckling when he saw his teammates' surprise. Any NPC that could reach Tier 4 was a dragon among men. These individuals could protect entire cities without help. How could any of them possibly be weak? Moreover, humans at Tier 4 were completely different from monsters at the same tier. Humans needed to rely on techniques and mana control to complete their Tier 4 promotion quests, but monsters could reach the tier as long as they and their bloodline were sufficiently powerful. Hence, even if a Tier 4 human NPC was slightly lower leveled than a Tier 4 monster, they could rely on their superior techniques to fill the gap. Furthermore, a Tier 4 secret silver guard's growth rate was by no means lacking. Surfeng's warning snapped everyone from their stupor, and a passionate flame began to bum in their eyes. The demon wolves before them were indeed extraordinary. That was clear after witnessing Cola's brief battle. Not only could these monsters chain their attacks, but they also knew how to target players' weak points. Most importantly, this wasn't a training session, but a life-threatening battle where they could exhibit their full potential. This was a battlefield that all expert players dreamed of. The 11 team members immediately cleared their minds and focused on the fight before them. Although their attention was on the demon wolves in front of them, they kept an eye on the monsters around them as well. Surfong wasn't idle either. He immediately charged at 2 of the 3-headed demon wolves in the distance, trying to integrate his basic combat techniques in his every movement. Trying to use combat techniques with every action was incredibly difficult. When he had fought the swordsman on the extraordinary tower's second-floor staircase, he hadn't spared any attention or time for conducting such experiments. The tower had reduced his physique to that of a Tier 1 player, and he had barely been able to keep up with the second-floor swordsman as it was. If he had tried to combine combat techniques with his movements, his efforts would have yielded the opposite effect. Fortunately, these demon wolves were the perfect practice targets. Not only did they target players' weak points, but he could also maintain his Tier 3 physique during the fight. He would have more than enough energy to spare for practicing his combat technique integration. Surfong proceeded to engage in a bitter battle with the 2 3-headed demon wolves and several hundred nearby ice demon wolves. Whenever he focused his attacks on the Grand Lords, the ice demon wolves pounced to intercept him. Some of the High Lords even used the chance to launch surprise attacks, preventing Surfong from using any of his skills or spells. He could only rely on combat techniques which were faster to defend himself. As the battle progressed, Surfong grew increasingly familiar with using basic combat techniques in combat. Initially, he had only been able to execute a basic combat technique perfectly once every dozen or so moves, but he gradually reduced that to 5 or 6 moves. As he did, his fight against the three-headed demon wolves became easier. Now, even his normal attacks were stronger than the level 124 Grand Lords. In fact, Surfeng began to gain the advantage against the two three-headed demon wolves and several hundred ice demon wolves as the battle continued. Aqua Rose and the others also improved with flying speed. At first, their fight with the demon wolves had been arduous, and Versailles had had to rescue them from time to time. However, they began to learn how to use their environment, and now all of their movements resembled combat techniques. The team continued to train for 5 consecutive days. During that time, they traveled between the Demon Wolf Den and the Extraordinary Tower. Not only had all of the team members reached the Ascension realm standard in the end, but Fire Dance, Violet Cloud, and Aqua Rose had also created customized bronze combat techniques. Everyone had also leveled with astonishing speed. The Demon Wolf Den's monsters didn't drop loot, but they did grant abundant EXP. In addition, Surfeng had sent the personal guards to clear out a portion of the den while everyone trained. As a result, the team members had leveled twice during the past 5 days. Unfortunately, due to the demon god, Atlok's soul curse, Surfeng had lost one of the 2 levels he had earned. Hence, he had only reached level 118. Sure enough, my combat power has risen considerably after integrating basic combat techniques with my movements. Overall, both my offense and defense have improved. If I can do the same with advanced combat techniques, I might be able to transcend tiers, Surfeng thought as he fought 3 three-headed demon wolves simultaneously. Read latest chapters at Wuxia World. After 5 days of frantic training, he had finally merged basic combat techniques with his movements. Now, he could effortlessly execute a basic combat technique with every action. As a result, his strength had undergone a qualitative transformation, and he could now pass the 90th step on the Extraordinary Tower's second-floor staircase. However, he still hit a roadblock on the 96th step during his fight with 3 black swordsmen. If he wished to defeat them, he'd have to become as powerful as the black swordsmen, integrating advanced combat techniques in his movements. Unfortunately, the feat was too difficult to accomplish as he was. Advanced combat techniques consumed a lot more stamina and concentration than basic combat techniques. They were also far more complex. Executing an advanced combat technique normally was already a challenge. Trying to use one with every action was beyond Surfeng right now. Guild leader, we're almost out of time. If we don't hurry to the Western continent now, Wonder won't make it for the family competition, Aqua Rose announced when she realized Surfeng was engrossed in his fight. It's already time? Surfeng felt as if time had passed too quickly. Alright, let's get ready to return then. You're tuning in to the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.